Summary. Naruto is blinded in an attack and gets the Byakugan and the Sharingan in each eye. Chapter 1. "Where is he?" shouted the Hokage as he burst into the council room, eyes moving from person to person trying to find the man that he was about to throttle. When his eyes landed on Hayashi Hyuga, the man's face paled even more, knowing the Hokage was probably about to kill him. "What in Kami's name happened today?" shouted the Hokage. His killing intent wasn't leaking it. It was coming out in floods, causing the civilians to pass out instantly. The clan heads, the hidden Anbu, and even the elders were backing away from the Hokage in fear, though they hid it well. Hayashi took a deep breath. He hadn't ever seen the Hokage this mad in his entire life, and something was telling him that the Hokage hadn't ever been this mad. His clan was in danger, that was for sure. The Hokage was erratic, angry, and was ready to kill. Unfortunately, all of this was aimed at Hayashi directly, though it was also being aimed at his clan for what had happened. Earlier today, a head family member went walking through the village along with 4 branch members of our clan. As they were walking through the village, they came in contact with Naruto Uzumaki, who was walking down the street intent on seeing something that was for sale at one of the local shops. Spoke Hayashi, bracing himself for what was about to happen. "I found that out on my own, Hayashi. I am not stupid," shouted the Hokage, his eyes flaring. Tired of the Hyuga in general. They were arrogant, petty, who enslaved their own clan members and looked down on everyone else. Sarutobi had to deal with Hayashi's predecessor and now Hayashi's slow talk, as they were both very good at blurring what had happened and making the Hyuga look better than they were. Hayashi wasn't about to do that, even if he had to torture a clan head to get it out of him. "I am sorry, Hokage-sama, I will continue," spoke Hayashi, feeling the pressure now more than ever. Sarutobi's eyes got much sharper when Hayashi said, "Hokage-sama," in such a respectful tone. He and his father were known for trying to use anyone's title with the least amount of respect while demanding everyone else use as much respect when speaking with them as possible. These two groups eventually ran into one another while walking through the streets. Apparently the Hyuga who was walking had expected Naruto to move aside for him, but it seemed that it did not happen and they ran into one another. The pause was definite. The council room had never been this quiet. Even when nobody was in it, the clan heads were looking at him with curious and expecting eyes. The elders' eyes were filled with disgust and a look that said this wasn't worth their time, probably referring to Naruto getting hurt. But the Hokage's eyes were full of murder. Hayashi was sure he would do something rash. After they ran into one another, the Hyuga from the main branch family demanded Naruto apologize to him, and went on to insult the boy for being stupid and short-sighted. Spoke Hayashi, feeling the killing intent coming off of the Hokage double. That apparently did not happen. What I am led to believe is that the boy insulted the main branch member by calling him a cross-dressing, pale-eyed freak, spoke Hayashi, not feeling anger at all because all he could feel was the fear of death from the look the Hokage was giving him. "What happened next?" spoke the Hokage, this time though his voice was slow and drawn out, like a nurse who seemed to take pleasure in watching the pain-filled face of a child who she just given a shot to, and was now removing the needle as slowly as possible. The Hyuga took great offense to this insult and decided that since Naruto thought his eyes were freakish, then his own eyes must not work very well, spoke Hayashi, truly dreading the next part. All of the people in the room were waiting with bated breath, not even daring to breath for fear of the Hokage turning his ire upon them. "What did he do?" asked the Hokage, his voice sounding much deeper than it usually did. In the large yet silent room, it seemed to echo, causing it to seem like it was coming from all directions. This made it all the more ominous for Hayashi. He used the gentle fist taijutsu style to poke Naruto in the right eye and destroyed it from the inside out, leaving absolutely no possibility for the boy's eye to ever work again. I believe that he would have done the same to the other eye if Itachi Uchiha had not shown up with Shisui Uchiha when they did, spoke Hayashi, feeling 3 things. The first was fear. Not even when the Kyuubi had attacked had he been this scared of it, yet their 70-plus-year-old Hokage made him feel fear like no other. The second was 2-part embarrassment. He couldn't believe a Hyuga had done something like this, especially in broad daylight, in front of people, to a citizen of Konoha, regardless of his standing in the village. The other part of his embarrassment came at the fact that it was 2 Uchiha who had saved the boy from the Hyuga clan member. The Uchiha and Hyuga had been having a long-time rivalry, which had been further increased after all of the Senju, except Tsunade Senju, had been exterminated. Now the Uchiha would be seen in a better light, although not that much since it was the Kyuubi's Jinchuriki, but that didn't mean the thought wouldn't help them while already wild rumors were running through the village about the way the Hyuga abused their children and others. "That is it," shouted the Hokage, standing up and pointing a finger at Hayashi, who could feel nothing but fear inside of him. I have tolerated the Hyuga and their ways for too long. All Hyuga are as of now banned from participating in any and all ninja-related matters until such times as a court case can be held and an investigation started to make sure that the Hyuga as a whole are obeying all of the rules that they agreed to when they joined Konohagakure. The Hyuga who did this will be executed. But the branch members will be spared as they had no way of stopping this, shouted the Hokage as he stood up and snapped his finger. 2 squads of ANBU jumped down from the shadows, bowed to the Hokage, and then set off to inform the Hyuga clan of what was happening, the Hyuga working to go home without pay, and the rest waited to see if the Hokage needed anything else. Hayashi looked shocked. Without the jobs provided by Konoha, the Hyuga would have to resort to using only the money that they had stored up, which was a lot, and the money they got from businesses they owned thought the village. They would be comfortable, yes, but there would be no more lavish spending like some of the head family had a fetish for. Furthermore, the Hyuga who caused this damage will be donating what is needed to fix the problem that he has created, spoke the Hokage with a nasty smirk that none of them, not even his ex-teammates, thought he was capable of making. Hayashi was confused as to what the Hokage meant. Hokage-sama, I already informed you that the boy's eyesight cannot be fixed. The eye is completely destroyed. No amount of money we donate will be able to change that, spoke Hayashi, feeling like he was missing something big. The look in the Hokage's eyes made everyone in the room feel like they had been cornered by the biggest and baddest predictor in the jungle. I didn't say you and your clan would be donating money now, did I? I said, the Hyuga who caused this damage will be donating what is needed to fix the problem that he created. That doesn't mean money, spoke the Hokage, his eyes hard, his face stuck in a cruel smirk. This would hurt the Hyuga in ways nothing else ever could. Hayashi's eyes widened and he stood up, acting on instinct. You can't give that boy a Hyuga clan member's eye. We have worked hard for countless generations to keep our prized bloodline secure, you. But that was as far as he got before it seemed the Hokage materialized out of thin air before him and picked him up by his neck with an iron grip that Hayashi couldn't budge. I told you, Hayashi, that there will be changes, and that means that you, your father, the head family, and all of the elders of your clan will bow their heads when they see me and show me the respect that I deserve. I led this village through the Second Shinobi World War and the Third one. I am the longest-running Kage to ever hold said position, a position I notice no Hyuga has ever held. I mastered every jutsu in this village, except clan techniques and bloodline abilities. I fought and have defeated other Kage alone, so I will get the respect I deserve whether I have to personally teach it to you and your clan or not, shouted the Hokage as he threw Hayashi up against the wall. Hayashi hit the stone wall so hard that his body was left in shock. He slowly started to get control back over his locked-up body, but it was slow. I didn't just order your clan to give something they held so preciously just because I could. I did it because one of your clan members attacked a citizen of Konohagakure, one of the people I have sworn to protect for the past 50+ years that I have been Hokage. You will fix the damage your clan has done, or I will make you and every member of your clan regret the day that you were ever born, shouted the Hokage, his chakra flaring, his killing intent raging, and his robes billowing in a dramatic yet terrifying way. After the Hokage had calmed down, he looked back at everyone else in the council room, figuring it was about time he laid down the laws. They had been a thorn in his side for far too long. As of today, I stripped the elder of any and all political and military power. The civilian council will be stripped down to half of its numbers, and an investigation will be put into place to make sure there is no siphoning of funds into people's bank accounts, as well as an investigation to make sure there has been no abuse of power. From now on, any clan member who is caught attacking Naruto Uzumaki will cause the entire clan to be punished as well. This means fines, jail time, and if the crime is severe enough, death or having your chakra sealed permanently. This also goes for if a member of your clan is aware of something that is going to happen to Naruto that will cause him harm and doesn't report it, seeing it happen but not trying to help him or report to me as quickly as he can, or any other indirect or direct way, spoke the Hokage, gaining gasps from everyone. They all went to yelling and bickering about how unfair it was, but the Hokage had enough of them and silenced them quickly. Silence, shouted the Hokage, instantly causing the room to fall silent again. I am the Hokage. I am the one who makes the laws in the village. The ninja follow and do as I say. If you don't like it and think you can take this hat from me, then I dare you to step forward and take it, spoke the Hokage as he pulled off his hat and held it in front of him. Nobody moved, nobody was stupid enough, because they were sure that the Hokage would kill any who attempted to take the hat from him. Furthermore, there will be no more complaints written to me about Naruto Uzumaki. I don't care if he burns your house down. If I get another letter, whoever wrote it will be stripped in front of the village in public and beaten until he or she cannot move, shouted the Hokage, feeling like a weight had been lifted off of his shoulders. He had just realized all the crap he had been taking and just who he was. He felt ashamed, to be honest. If Tobirama could have seen what he had become in his later years, he doubted he would have even named him Hokage. You are all dismissed, and if you think you are above my laws for whatever reasons, then think again. You will be punished whether you are on the council, are a clan head, an elder, or hold any other position. Do not cross me, spoke the Hokage with that final warning. He stood up and walked out of the room, and slammed the door so hard that there was hairline fractures in the wood. Everything was silent until the civilian council got up and started murmuring about how unfair things were and talking about who would be allowed to stay on and who would be removed from the council. The elders were silent, but even they knew to tread carefully, because it seemed that Hiruzen no longer cared if they had been friend, rivals, or had been on the same team. He was willing to kill anyone who crossed his path, and he was still the most powerful ninja in their village, even at his advanced age, so they knew they had better listen well. The clan heads were not having it easy either. While none of them except maybe now Hayashi, obviously Fugaku, and possibly some of the lesser clan heads hated Naruto, that didn't mean that there weren't members of their clans who didn't want to see the boy die. They couldn't guarantee that they could keep them from attacking the boy, but with these new laws, if they didn't, then the entire clan will be heavily fined, taking money away from them that they needed, or worse, the threat of death or having your chakra sealed away permanently. They would all have to have a serious talk with their clan members as soon as possible. A week later at the hospital, Naruto was slowly waking up from his encounter with that girly-looking prick that had stabbed him in the eye with his finger. After that, Naruto remembered an exploding pain bust in his eye, and then it felt like a liquid fire being poured into his head like a cast iron mold. Naruto slowly opened his eyes, but then he noticed that he was in the hospital. The room was white like always, and they had put him in his own separate room like always. Many would be happy to be in a room by themselves while at the hospital as to not have to listen to the coughs and cries of pain from the other patients. But Naruto wasn't stupid. He knew why they had put him in here. They didn't want him infecting any of the other residents with his presence. Naruto sighed a bit and then looked out of the window. He saw the first Hokage's face, knowing a bit about the man. Then he saw the second Hokage's face, who had been the man who gave the title Hokage to the old man. But oddly, it seemed like a black line cut off the right side of his vision. Naruto blinked twice trying to get rid of it, but when he realized it wasn't going away, he freaked out. Oh God, what is going on? Did that girly man really blind me? Wondered Naruto as he fell out of his bed and ran for the closest bathroom. He ran into the side of the wall, not having the right side of his field of view, and only using one eye really messed up his depth perception. When he got to the restroom after falling and running into a few things along the way, he saw that his face was wrapped up in a white bandage. Phew! For a second there I thought I was blind, spoke Naruto as he began to unravel the bandages and put them on the sink. When he got done and looked back up into the mirror, he started to scream. What the hell is going on? Shouted Naruto as he looked into the mirror. Staring back at him was a pale, featureless eye that was just like the girly man's and the rest of his clan, where a bright blue eye should be. Naruto did know a bit about the clans, as he would talk with the Hokage all the time, and he would tell him about people who would come in and answer his silly questions like, why is that guy's eye red with black dots? Or why is that guy's eye white with no pupil? I think the Hokage called it the Byakugan, spoke Naruto. But then something freaky happened. The veins on the right side of his face bulged out, and then he could instantly see everything around him, causing him to freak out even more. What is going on with me? Shouted Naruto as he ran out of the bathroom, but then ran into something very hard, strong, and obviously unmovable by the way Naruto just bounced off of it. It seems you are not causing too much trouble now, are you, Naruto-kun? Spoke a kind, warm voice that caused Naruto to jump off of the floor and look at the old man. Though oddly enough he had been able to see him even while he was on the ground. He watched the old man's facial movement and heard an audible gasp. Naruto, seeing a bit of fun, decided to mess with the Hokage. Hey old man, what is with the long face? Joked Naruto, seeing the Hokage pull himself back together, and then give Naruto a warm smile and a soft chuckle. Sorry Naruto-kun, you just surprised me is all. How in the world did you ever get the Byakugan to activate? I know you don't know how to use chakra, and you obviously don't know the beginner hand signs to activated the Byakugan, so tell me how you did it, asked the Hokage as he pulled a chair over to himself from beside Naruto's bedside. It was for people coming to visit their loved ones while they were here, but it seemed that wasn't going to happen for Naruto. Naruto started to flail his hands about foolishly for a moment before saying, I don't know really. I walked over into the bathroom and pulled the bandages off only to find this thing. I remember you telling me it is called the Byakugan, and when I said its name it just turned on. Now everything is weird, and yet it isn't. It is so confusing, spoke Naruto as he looked around. It was weird being able to see nearly everything at once, and he was wondering if his brain could continue to take the wide-scale influx of images without going brain dead or something. Interesting, it is probably due to an influx of adrenaline and your above-average chakra reserves. If you simply calm down and try to pull the chakra away from your eye, it will deactivate and we can begin to talk, spoke the Hokage as he looked down at the boy. He nodded his head and the Hokage found it almost inconceivable that people could hate him so much. Naruto took a deep breath, held it in, and then slowly exhaled, only to do it all again. Slowly, he felt himself calming down and all the tense muscles in his body relax. He could actually see a blue substance in his body start to calm down and flow more naturally before his eye lost the ability to see it and went back to normal. Better, asked the Hokage, seeing that the Byakugan had deactivated. He was proud that the calming exercises that he had taught Naruto were paying off, since it would be impractical to try and teach him the amount of chakra control he would need to deactivate it manually. Yeah, though that was really cool. How did you know that it would go back to normal? Asked Naruto, looking at the Hokage with interest dancing around his two different eyes. I am the Hokage, of course I would know something as simple as that, though I think it would be best to talk about what got you here in the first place, spoke the Hokage in a sad tone that made Naruto drop his head a bit. The Hokage pulled Naruto in and gave him a grandfatherly hug before letting him go and watching Naruto sit on his bed. I got bored doing nothing inside of my apartment, so I thought that I should walk around the village for a bit and try to find something interesting. I thought that it would be fun to go see all of the ninja weapons or something. But while I was in deep thought, this mean guy ran into me and knocked me to the ground. When I looked up, I saw it was one of those guys who wore the dresses, and he told me that I should apologize to him for getting his dress dirty. But then he called me a filthy street rat. I didn't know what to do, so I called him a cross-dresser and said that his eyes were freaky. He didn't like that very much, and soon he poked me in the eye. The pain was nearly unbearable, like fire burning everything inside of my eye. He went to strike again, but the Itachi and his friend showed up and stopped him. I was happy that they had helped me, but soon I passed out. After that, all I remember is waking up in here, spoke Naruto, pointing towards the bed that he was sitting on. He had so many questions to ask the Hokage, but the Hokage cut him off before he could ask him. That man was a member of the head family in the Hyuga clan, the clan that you insulted, by the way. The head family lead the Hyuga clan, which made him very influential in the village, spoke the Hokage. He watched as Naruto's head dropped a bit, but he soon continued his speech, but not as important as me. For attacking a citizen of Konohagakure, who was also a minor, using an extremely deadly ninja art, the man was executed. I also made sure that the rest of the Hyuga clan knew that this will not be tolerated ever again, or else the punishment will be spread far and wide, spoke the Hokage as he watched Naruto's awestruck face. He smiled a bit, knowing how much Naruto idolized him. He had figured he would have idolized a more hip young Hokage like the other three, but when he asked him, Naruto had said, "They only live to be 30, you lived long enough to become a fossil." It was a bit insulting yet also heartwarming at the same time. It was a weird combination in his opinion. Another punishment the man had to suffer through was one of my own choosing. What he had done to you would have rendered it impossible for us to ever heal your eye, leaving you blind in that eye permanently. I decided that if he could take away someone's sight in the way that he did, that I could make him give it back in a similar way, spoke the Hokage. It seemed Naruto wasn't catching on to what he was saying. So you made him poke me in the eye again, which caused me to get an eye like his, asked Naruto with a smile on his face. He noticed the chuckle the Hokage let loose and folded his arms, knowing that he had been wrong. No, Naruto, it wasn't that merciful. You see, he took your sight using his own eyes, and a special technique known only to the Hyuga. It is something that not even I can do because I don't have their eyes. No, what I did was have his right eye removed while he was still awake with no painkillers, and then had the eye transplanted into you. So now you can see again, if not better, spoke the Hokage with a smile on his face. He expected Naruto to freak out about having someone else's eye in his head, or about the way he went about getting the eye, but all Naruto said was, "Oh-hh-hh-hh. I get it, so now I can do that technique thing since I have his eye, right?" asked Naruto, hoping to learn some kind of ninja technique. The Hokage sighed again, but smiled anyways. Naruto would always come to his office for a few hours and talk to him about this or that and try and con a ninja technique or two out of him. He had to admit the boy was smart and had in fact got a few techniques out of him. Not that he could use them, seeing as he had no chakra control and didn't even know the hand signs that he spoke of. Well, it is possible for you to do it, but that doesn't mean you can do it. You see, you have to learn how to use those techniques like anyone else, but the only people who know how to do it is the Hyuga, and trust me, you want to avoid them as much as possible since they are far from happy with you and I right now, spoke the Hokage as he started to stroke his beard. He saw Naruto nod his head a bit, but he knew the boy wasn't done talking, he never really was. So what does chakra look like? asked Naruto, trying to slip in a question that the Hokage wouldn't think too much about. The old man had a weird way of only answering questions that Naruto layered in within other questions or topics. You should know better than I, since I haven't ever seen it, spoke the Hokage with a smirk, but he decided not to tease Naruto too much. But from what I have learned, it usually looks like a thick blue cloud of smoke when outside of the body, but like liquid in a tube when inside of the chakra network. Naruto nodded his head and went to ask another question, but the Hokage cut him off again. You will learn all about your new dojutsu soon enough, Naruto-kun, I promise. I have already asked a friend of yours and his friend to help you get accustomed to your new eye, spoke the Hokage as he stood up. Naruto looked at him funny since as far as he knew he had no friends. The Hokage clapped his hand and two ANBU ninja jumped out of the shadows with their ANBU masks still on. It is okay, Shisui, Itachi. You two can take off your masks now, spoke the Hokage as he watched Naruto's reaction when Itachi and Shisui pulled off their masks to reveal the two Uchiha's faces. Itachi, shouted Naruto as he clung to Itachi's leg. Itachi laughed a bit and patted Naruto on the head in a fond brotherly way. Shisui looked over at Itachi and smirked a bit. Itachi just rolled his eyes and went back to looking down at Naruto. What are you doing here? Asked Naruto as he let go of Itachi's leg. He was one of the few people who would talk to him, and he had pushed him on the swings a few times, usually making the day one of the best in his life. The Hokage wanted me to make sure you get adjusted to that new eye of yours, and this slacker just wanted any excuse to blow off his clan duties, spoke Itachi as he shoved a finger in the direction of Shisui, who got all puffy. Hey, don't tell him that. He is supposed to think of me as the cool, charming, yet mysterious guy who he idolizes and wishes to grow up as, spoke Shisui, having no shame in his voice at all. Itachi just looked at his friend like he was stupid, and Naruto just started to laugh. I am afraid Naruto may already have someone like that, Shisui-kun, spoke the Hokage as he looked at Naruto, who was holding onto Itachi's leg and wasn't letting go. Shisui saw this and huffed a bit and looked away childishly. That all ended though as he quickly bounced back. Well, that doesn't matter right now, because soon when we start training him, he will see just how much better I am than someone as lame as Itachi and quickly start to beg me to train him, spoke Shisui, his vanity showing, and he didn't seem to care in the least. Lame? I think you mistaken me for you, because I am 10 times the ninja you will ever be, spoke Itachi as he looked over at his friend Sharingan blazing. Oh, Mr. Bigshot thinks he can hang with the big boys. Well then let's see what you got, spoke Shisui as he activated his own Sharingan, and then the two of them butted heads. Alright boys, don't forget the objective while getting caught up in the means, spoke the Hokage in a playful voice as he looked down at Naruto, who seemed to be enjoying the two bickering over him. The Hokage could only hope Naruto modeled himself after Itachi and not Shisui. Oh yeah, I nearly forgot about that, spoke Shisui, looking back down at Naruto. Or more specifically his new eye. Of course you would. Now Hokage-sama, how much do you want us to teach him? I understand chakra control, so I am assuming at least tree walking, but should we teach him anything else? Asked Itachi in his business voice, making it clear that things were serious. Shisui rolled his eyes, which caused Naruto to chuckle. But when Itachi looked down at him, he shut up and then straightened up. I think him learning water walking would be alright, maybe teach him some of the basics like hand-to-hand combat, shuriken jutsu. Of course I want you to get him used to using the Byakugan, and anything else you think will help, spoke the Hokage as he leaned down and hugged Naruto before walking off to go back to work. Hell yeah, I will have this boy spitting out fireballs by the end of the year, shouted Shisui as he pumped up his fist. But then he was bonked on the head by Itachi. We are not going to be teaching one so young to do something like that, spoke Itachi as he was about to start talking to Naruto again. But then Shisui cut him off again. But you started teaching little Sasuke not so long ago, and he is about the same age as Naruto, spoke Shisui with a smirk on his face. Itachi's eyebrow twitched a bit, but other than that he didn't say anything. Come on Naruto, let's leave this ingrate, spoke Itachi as he stretched out his hand. Naruto took it and soon they were gone, leaving only a quick flash of fire behind them. Ingrate? I will show you, ingrate, spoke Shisui, quickly following behind them in a smokeless, non-elemental, completely silent body flicker technique that he was so famed for. When Naruto came out of the flames, the first thing he saw was Shisui looking smug across the field. It had surprised Naruto since Itachi hadn't told him where they had been going, and because he had gotten here before them. Hey Shisui, how did you get here so fast? Asked Naruto as he let go of Itachi's hand and walked over to Shisui, whose grin got even larger as he looked at Shisui with a smirk that said, I am getter than you. I didn't really get here all that fast. It is just that Itachi is so slow, spoke Shisui as he looked over at Itachi, whose eyebrow was twitching violently. He knew he had won this round, or so he thought. Yes, Shursui is the best at using the body flicker technique. It is actually how he got the moniker Shursui the Teleporter, spoke Itachi as he walked down into the field. Shursui puffed up his chest knowing that he was great, but then Itachi said, "But it is to be expected when you only practice one technique and leave the rest of your skills to stagnate." Now Shursui was looking at Itachi with fire in his Sharingan eyes. "Stagnant? I'll show you stagnant right here, right now," spoke Shursui as he pulled out some kunai like he was about to fight Itachi right then and there. Itachi didn't even pay him any mind and completely ignored him, which really pissed Shursui off. "Ignore him, Naruto-kun. Right now we need to start teaching you how to control your chakra," spoke Itachi as he walked over to a nearby tree and picked a leaf from one of the branches, before returning and handing it to Naruto. "How is a leaf going to help me learn to control my chakra?" spoke Naruto as he looked at the leaf front and back. It was a plain old leaf as far as he was concerned. The leaf really doesn't have an important role in the first step of mastering your chakra, since all it has to do is be there. But without it, the first step in controlling your chakra would be pointless with nothing being gained, spoke Itachi as he then went into this long spill about the fundamentals of chakra, how they circulate through the body, how they were able to manipulate it through will, and then finally he explained in detail what the first step of the chakra control exercise was. When Itachi was done, he looked at Naruto, who had a blank look in his eyes, and felt his eyebrow twitch. When he looked over at Shursui, he saw that he had actually laid down and fallen asleep. He was snoring as well, which really pissed him off. "Wake up," shouted Itachi, feeling his cheeks heat up as he yelled at them uncharacteristically. Shursui jumped up and pulled out his tanto before looking over at Naruto with a bored, sleepy look in his eyes. Naruto had snapped out of his stupor, but had fallen backwards from the shock. "Did you hear anything that I said?" asked Itachi, feeling his patience slowly starting to wear through already. He could handle any battlefield, but these two idiots were going to be the death of him. He still couldn't see how Shursui was such a genius, yet such an idiot. "Oh, sorry Itachi, it was just that when you started talking I kind of faded out. Could you tell me what I am supposed to do again?" asked Naruto, wiping the sleep out of his eyes. He didn't see the way Itachi's shoulders slumped right before picking himself up again. "As I was saying, chakra." But then to Itachi's annoyance, Shursui cut across him. "Put the leaf on your forehead. Sense your chakra flowing through your body. Try and move that chakra into your forehead to make the leaf float about 4 inches off of your head. When you can hold this for 5 minutes, you can move on," spoke Shursui, cutting across Itachi, knowing that there was no way he would be able to survive another boring lecture like that. He thought his teacher was bad. Itachi had to be 10 times worse, and he was 10 times younger. "Oh, I get it," spoke Naruto as he walked over to a stump and sat down on it. He quickly placed a leaf on his forehead and began feel around for his chakra. He wasn't sure what to feel for, but he remembered the places that had the most of that blue stuff in the Hokage and decided to try to feel around there. XXX. Shursui watched Naruto sit on the small stump at the edge of the tree line and begin searching around for his chakra. The little area that he and Itachi had brought Naruto was pretty nice. It was about 120 feet in diameter, so they had enough room, yet it was plenty private for them. The clearing had about ankle-high light green grass, surrounding by thick trees with dark green leaves, and right beside the clearing was a pond about the same size as the clearing. All in all, this place was perfect for training. Shursui looked over at Itachi and smirked. "Dude, I thought our teacher was bad? What was that? I hope you were trying to put us to sleep, because if you were serious then it is a good thing I came along. Though maybe that is why the Hokage allowed it," spoke Shursui, rubbing his chin, trying to figure out if the Hokage had known about Itachi's horrible teaching abilities. In a sense, Shursui was right. The Hokage had agreed to let him come to help out Naruto, but it was because of his personality that was so much closer to Naruto's that it had been allowed. The Hokage had figured Naruto would be able to open up more around Shursui and would be able to advance faster this way. It wasn't that the Hokage didn't believe Itachi couldn't make Naruto strong. It was just that he would have to change Naruto fundamentally for him to start learning like Itachi would want him to. That could take more time than the Hokage wanted it to. "You ruined my explanation," spoke Itachi, completely ignoring the jab at his teaching skills. Not that he really cared, but he didn't like not being good at something. "That kid was already in La La Land after the first 5 minutes, spoke Shursui, knowing of Itachi's inability to lose. He may be more vocal about it, but nonetheless he knew Itachi was no better than he was. If Naruto is to learn to be a ninja, then he will need to know the basics, which include the mechanics behind it. He can't just be a ninja who learns a few random jutsu and starts flinging them around whenever he feels like," spoke Itachi, not liking Shursui's laissez-faire approach to Naruto's education. Naruto had to be strong in the future or he wouldn't make it. It was as simple as that. In case you forgot, Naruto is 5 years old, and unlike you who had already been boring back then, he still has that child mentality. If you want Naruto to be more analytical, then you are going to have to start at the bottom and work your way up, slowly changing him. The boy will simply resist if you try and change him in one big push, or will simply ignore you like he just did, spoke Shisui, as he looked over at Naruto with a small smile on his face. The kid was learning fast and already seemed to have found his chakra. The leaf would blast off of his forehead before Naruto would catch it and try all over again. I get that Naruto is not like me, he is a lot more like you, but you know just as well as I do, if he wants to control that power, then he will need to learn to curb his emotions and think clearly. If he were to try and use that power, it would take over him in moments, and then we would have a dead pupil and a giant nine-tailed fox trying to kill us, spoke Itachi, making sure his voice was too low for Naruto to hear. He made sure that not even his abnormally good hearing would be able to hear him. Maybe he doesn't want to use that. Maybe he wants to be recognized for who he is, not what others see, or what is sealed inside of him, spoke Shisui, his eyes momentarily evolving before he reeled it in and let his normal Sharingan take its place. He couldn't let his emotions rule him, or Naruto might hear something he shouldn't. I am not saying that he needs to use it, just that if it ever came to that, then it would be best if he was ready for it, spoke Itachi, not understanding why Shisui was getting so defensive about. He didn't hate Naruto, in fact he liked the boy, though he had never actually met him, so what was going on? I am just so tired of everyone wanting others to make sacrifices just for something as petty as a little bit of power. Should the boy really have to give up his happy carefree personality just because the high-ups will want him to be able to use that power, asked Shisui, feeling his and Naruto's place switching. He hated what he had been forced to do, and it haunted him every single day, but to see it happening to another was just too much for him. Shisui, you need to stop projecting on Naruto. He isn't you, and your situations are not the same, spoke Itachi, knowing now what his friend was talking about. It wasn't easy for Shisui to talk about this, but for it to come out so strongly was a surprise. I am not projecting, Itachi. You and I both know what will happen to him when he gets old enough. They will take him, strip him of who he is just so he can draw from its power, and when they are done, lock him up and wait for him to die. It is the same in every ninja village. It is just the first two wielders of the Nine Tails had both power and prestige. They couldn't do anything to Mito because she was strong, had a clan backing her, and was married to the Hokage. Kushina was already very powerful as a child with her chakra chains and was able to draw on the Nine Tails chakra, at least to an extent. There was also the mass amount of attention she had from the populace of Konoha because of her clan being massacred in the war, but Naruto doesn't have any of that. After Naruto dies, Konoha will be just like the rest of the villages when it comes to using Jinchuriki as weapons of mass destruction, spoke Shisui, his face hard as stone, and an angry aura seemed to engulf him. His eyes glowed a bit and the tomes began to spin wildly. Itachi put his hand on Shisui's shoulder to calm him down. We will protect him from that fate, spoke Itachi, hoping his friend wouldn't do something incredibly foolish. He was already stressed out about the relationship between their clan and the government of Konoha, but now it seemed it was starting to spill over. And then what? When Naruto dies, the Nine Tails will be free, and then they will catch it again and stick inside of someone else and do the same thing to them, spoke Shisui. His voice wasn't as angry sounding, just tired. He ran his hands through his hair before taking a deep breath and closing his eyes to meditate for a moment. If Naruto were to escape, then they would lose the only way for them to seal the Nine Tails, spoke Itachi, kicking himself for just giving away valuable and highly classified information to Shisui. But he was his best friend, so he just knew he had to do it. What do you mean? Wouldn't they just seal the Nine Tails in another child? Spoke Shisui, looking at his friend with narrowed eyes. He could see Itachi felt conflicted, but there was no way he was about to let this go. Why do you think all of the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails have been Uzumaki? Asked Itachi, finally deciding to give in. He felt like a traitor, but in many ways he had betrayed everyone, his family, his village, and all of those spy missions where he gained someone's trust just to use it against them. I don't know, I just figured it was a family thing, or that they were the best suited to do so, spoke Shisui as he looked over at Naruto as if he were trying to work out a puzzle. It seemed this Uzumaki thing had really spiked his interest. Yes, it is a type of tradition that an Uzumaki be the Kyuubi's Jinchuriki, but that isn't the only reason. Only an Uzumaki with their strong life force and strong bodies can hold the Nine Tails within them and not die soon after. I am sure the higher-ups are going to try and bred him out when the time is right to get a child with the ability to house the Nine Tails and possibly continue this system until we either find a way to get rid of the Biju or until Jinchuriki become ineffective, spoke Itachi as he watched Naruto practice. He was getting better fast. He could already hold up the leaf for about 10 seconds before losing control. So if Naruto were to disappear and go somewhere, they couldn't find him, then there would be no way for them to seal the 9 tails anymore, spoke Shursui, his voice holding an edge to it that Itachi didn't like. Itachi looked from Itachi to Shursui before starting to speak again. Yes, but don't forget, when Uzushiogakure was destroyed, not all of the Uzumaki were killed. Some of them escaped and fled all across the elemental nations. It is possible that others still live on somewhere, and that they could be taken and forced into becoming the new Jinchuriki, spoke Itachi, hoping to dissuade him doing something that would get him into trouble. Shursui had always preached about self-sacrifice and things like for the good of the village, so this new Shursui was unknown to Itachi. Yeah, you're right, spoke Shursui. But then he felt a powerful spike in chakra, and looked over at Naruto, who was covered in a thick aura of chakra. What is going on, spoke Itachi, as he watched Naruto concentrating on the leaf floating above his head. I have no idea, spoke Shursui right before something amazing happened. Back with Naruto. Naruto was focusing on the leaf on top of his head, trying to make it float a few inches off of his head and stay there. It wasn't as easy as he had first thought it would be. First he had to actually find his chakra, though that was somewhat easy since he already had a good idea where his chakra originated from and slowly started to redirect it to his forehead. That took a sweet little minute, but then it went on to the hard part. Naruto soon realized that being gentle wasn't something he was good at. The first thing he did was blast the leaf off of his head into the stratosphere. When he got it back, it did the same thing again and again and again. It got on his nerves, but slowly and surely he got the hang of it. He was only able to keep the leaf up for about 5 seconds, but it was only floating about 2 inches off of his forehead. He had to add more chakra, but this caused it to become unbalanced and fall off to the side. He had to figure that one out, and after an hour of practice, he soon was getting the hang of moving his chakra around within him. Soon the only problem Naruto was having was keeping the leaf up without losing concentration, causing the leaf to flutter to the ground. Naruto then got the idea that if he encased the leaf in his chakra, then he would be able to hold it in place, so he started to let out a lot of chakra. It seemed to work as the leaf wasn't moving at all, but he could also feel his chakra reserves depleting fast. Oddly though, he got a weird sensation to spin the leaf to the left, the direction that his hair grew, as fast as possible, and so he did. Naruto felt like his chakra was swirling within him and his chakra has hardening inside of him. There felt like there was a barrier keeping something deep down hidden, but that wasn't going to stop him, and soon he was pressing against whatever it was with all the chakra he had. Oddly enough, he was still channeling chakra through his forehead. That was when Naruto felt it. It felt like a giant floodgate had been opened and something mixed with his chakra that he felt he had always had. He wasn't expecting 9 giant, long golden chakra chains to blast out of his forehead and start flailing around. He was kind of pissed because when they came out they destroyed his leaf, but far more than that feeling was that of fear. Present time. When the giant golden chakra chains blasted out of Naruto's forehead, Shursui and Itachi could feel Naruto's chakra strengthening. It also seemed to be glowing smoother than it had before, like the chakra had been missing something and now it was there fixing whatever problem Naruto had been having before. Senseis, shouted Naruto as he stood up, flailing his arms about as the chakra chains whipped around and destroyed a large tree like it was nothing. Naruto was running around frantically, thinking his head was about to split open because of the chakra chains. He didn't even realize it was he who was controlling them. Calm down, shouted Itachi as he jumped up and dodged one of the chakra chains. He noticed that they had some kind of sharp point at the end of it that had sharp blades on the side. It was an interesting weapon and he wanted to take a look at them closer, but right now his life was in danger. Wow, Naruto, that is so cool, shouted Shursui as he disappeared and then reappeared only to do this again as he dodged the frantic chakra chains. He had seen these before in Kushina Uzumaki, though Naruto's was shaped a bit differently than hers had been. Naruto's chakra chains were golden, but the links in the chain were a bit longer than Kushina's had been, and these had small little bits on the chain that looked like they would shred you good if they got a hold of you. The tip was different as well. While Kushina's had been thick and had a square base that funneled down into a sharp point with inverted edges on the side giving 4 sharp blades on the sides, Naruto's looked like the part of the kunai above the handle but a bit latter and a widened side. It was thick, powerful, and obviously very sharp. Naruto, try and stop the flow of chakra to your forehead, shouted Itachi as he dodged another one of the chakra chains. They were much faster than he thought they would be and were very powerful. The trees were like toothpicks to these things and the ground like water. They easily would pierce through it and not lose any momentum and come back out of the ground. Naruto was running around flailing his arms as he stared at his forehead where the chakra chains were coming out, whipping about in all directions. He was terrified and nobody could really blame him. They were sure he hadn't ever seen anything like that before. I don't think it is any good, Itachi. He seems locked in on his forehead and doesn't seem to be able to hear us, shouted Shursui, as he dodged 2 more of the chakra chains. These things were no joke. He couldn't wait to see what Naruto would be like when he harnessed these things. I just want to know why they keep attacking us and how no matter where we go they always seem to find us, shouted Itachi, as he gracefully dodged another chakra chain. He wouldn't admit it, but he was glad Shursui was here to take some of the heat off of him by distracting some of the chains. Naruto is panicking and is probably scared for his life. Chakra is the essence of life, so it isn't that big a stretch of the imagination that his chakra is reacting in turn in order to protect him. It must see us as a threat, and it is trying to remove said threat, spoke Shursui, as he disappeared once again, only to have to dodge yet another chakra chain. Shursui did note that while these things were power, fast, and obviously they had other uses as well. Something interesting he did notice as well was that they were very chakra efficient. No chakra was needed other than forming them, and from the looks of it, the will of the user to move them. This type of jutsu could be used for hours on end if honed correctly. Alright, that does make sense, I guess, but what about it finding us? Naruto isn't even looking at us, so how do these damn chakra chains know where to strike, asked Itachi as he used his sword and a good deal of strength to redirect another one of the chakra chains. Ha 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 ha, oh what the super nerd is stumped, spoke Shursui, as he dodged more chakra chains and looked over at Itachi who was giving him the dirty eye. Oh, you were serious? You haven't figured it out? Asked Shursui, surprised at the obvious answer that was staring them both in the face, and yet Itachi was missing it. This was why he didn't want Naruto to be like Itachi. While Itachi was strong and smart, he sometimes missed the more obvious things, and those are the ones that could cause you very painful memories. He is a sensor ninja. Naruto is subconsciously using it, and the chakra chains are feeding off of it, spoke Shursui with a grin on his face when he saw the surprised look on Itachi's face. That is interesting. I remember reading the Uzumaki all had an abnormal sensory ability, but I had thought it was just an assumption, spoke Itachi as he ran further away from the chakra chains. They didn't seem as violent when he was at a distance, but they would still attack. Itachi couldn't risk running too far away because the chains may try and follow him and that might kill Naruto. Yeah, it is interesting, but this is getting old fast, spoke Shursui as he disappeared and then reappeared beside Naruto right before he delivered a quick chop to the boy's neck before disappearing as all 9 chakra chains tried to pierce him at once. When Shursui reappeared, Naruto was falling over and the chakra chains were being reabsorbed into him. Shursui used his famous jutsu one more time and caught Naruto before he hit the ground. Well, that was interesting, but what happened, spoke Itachi as he removed Naruto's shirt and looked over Naruto's body with his Sharingan active alongside Shursui. What they found disturbed them. There was residue chakra on Naruto's body, but not from his chakra, this new chakra or its chakra. This led them to believe what had happened had been foul play. I told you, it will only continue to get worse for him, spoke Shursui, as he tried to remove the foreign chakra from Naruto's body, hoping it wouldn't harm him in any way. Yeah, but what do you think the seal was supposed to hold back? Asked Itachi, looking over Naruto's body for any other seals. Now he wished he had the Byakugan just to be even more certain. I would suspect that there is something that plays in the production of that weird chakra. We already know that regular chakra is the combination of physical and spiritual energies mixing together to create our chakra. So maybe there is a third energy that plays in the production of Naruto's chakra, thus changing it. The seal must have been used to block this energy, spoke Shursui as he laid Naruto down and put his ugly jacket back on him. Shursui sat down and looked around while thinking not bad for a first day, when he saw all the damage they had caused. Trees were turned to splinters. There were deep holes in the ground, as well as other things. But if that were the case, then the number of people who knew about it would be very few, and the number of people capable of making and placing a seal on someone are far fewer, spoke Itachi as his mind started to race through all of the people he knew who could block one single energy in the body while making sure the seal went unnoticed. The Hokage would be on that list, but I doubt he would do this to Naruto. Then of course there is Danzo. I am sure he used some kind of treachery to find out, and he has plenty of motives. Then of course there is Lord Jiraiya, who left the boy here for reasons unknown to go do what he does best. I see possibilities there. The only other 2 people I can think of would be the 4th Hokage and Kushina Uzumaki. I can't see Kushina putting that seal on Naruto since it would only help him, though I have no idea how the 4th would act. He didn't even want anyone knowing that Kushina and he were together, let alone that she was pregnant with his child, spoke Shursui as he rubbed his chin. His genius mind starting to boot up as well as he ran through obvious reasons and then less likely ones. He tried not to focus too much on Danzo because the reasons and motives would be far too many to think about, so he left him for last in case the others passed. Itachi looked at Shisui like he was crazy. Shisui, you are suspecting not one, but two Hokage of this treasonous act, not only that the boy's own mother, his parents' two most trusted people, though I would agree with suspecting Danzo, but the other four I just couldn't believe, spoke Itachi as he watched Shisui pick Naruto up. Today's training was obviously over. Shisui looked at Itachi and said, "We are ninja. Doing underhanded things is what our society was built on. I honestly can't think of any reason for Kushina to be involved, and I don't think the third is involved, but I can't just rule them out without evidence. The fourth and Jiraiya, I just don't know. There could just as easily be something sinister there as innocent. While Danzo is an obvious choice, it just feels like someone is using him as a cover-up." After that, he diapered without making so much as a sound. Itachi groaned and was soon after him. XXX. Shisui soon appeared inside of Naruto's apartment, and then a few moments later Itachi came out of a fire-styled version of Shisui's jutsu and walked beside him. Shisui laid Naruto in his shabby little bed and looked around the small apartment. It was really nasty, having empty, half-empty, moldy, rotten, and other types of descriptions for the hundreds of ramen cups lying around the apartment. Shisui walked over to the fridge and just let out a sad sigh. All that was in the fridge was some old milk that Shisui threw away. It would only hurt the boy, not help him. "What are you doing?" asked Itachi, as he watched Shisui starting to write something on a piece of paper he found. After he was done, he put some tape on it and attached it to Naruto's forehead. "This place is gross, so I told him to clean it up," spoke Shisui as he looked through Naruto's things, much to Itachi's ire. It was one thing to point out that someone's house was gross, not that it was polite, but another thing to go through their things when they were passed out on their bed. "What are you trying to do? Rob the poor boy?" asked Itachi as he saw Shisui taking out all of the orange things the boy had, which was almost all of his things, and throwing them on the ground. "You were the one who wanted to change him. Well, I want to change his sense of style. I mean, look at this stuff. What if he grew up wearing these things? He would actually think they were cool," spoke Shisui as he pulled out more ugly clothing that smelled funny and were of poor quality. "I agree they are not pleasant on the eyes, but you can't just destroy his things because you don't like them. What will he wear?" demanded Itachi, watching the pile of things that Shisui didn't like getting bigger and bigger. Soon almost all of Naruto's clothes were on the ground, leaving only a few pairs of boxers and all socks that were not ankle-cut, or had stupid designs or insignias. "You worry too much. I will get him some clothes that people won't think he is colorblind for wearing," spoke Shisui, as he put all the ugly clothes in a basket and then disappeared. Itachi grumbled a bit but quickly followed him. Back at training ground. When Itachi came out of fire style, body flicker technique, he saw Shisui standing in front of a burning pile of clothes that were already mostly ash. Itachi started to rub his temples, knowing that this was going to take a long time. XXX. Itachi was right. Shisui took him to every store that he thought was cool to pick out clothes. He felt like this was how a date was supposed to be, but unfortunately he was with Shisui since he couldn't trust his friend not to do something incredibly stupid when he was gone. Because of his Sharingan, Shisui knew exactly what size Naruto was, and soon he had bought Naruto a whole new wardrobe full of clothes that looked exactly like they were, and that was of Uchiha tastes. After that, they went to a logo shop to have Naruto's clan symbol put on the back of all the shirts. That was annoying since the clerk was almost entirely deaf, so when he saw the black shirts with high collar, he kept trying to put Uchiha fans on the back. More than once Shisui had to practically scream into the man's ear to try and get him to understand, much to Itachi's growing anger. When that was done, they came back and put the clothes inside of the dresser, and off they went once more. Shisui bought Naruto all kinds of things like fresh groceries, some cheap appliances that were not broken, and other crap that the boy would need. Every time they returned to Naruto's house, Shisui would put another note on Naruto's head. Just when Itachi thought he would be free, a messenger came and told them that the Hokage wanted to see them for an update for what they had been doing all day. So Itachi had to practically drag himself into the Hokage's office to give his report. Hokage's office. Itachi, Shisui, how was Naruto's first day? Was he able to make any headway? Asked the Hokage with a smile on his face. Shisui and Itachi looked at each other and used their Sharingan to communicate with one another. It went great, Hokage-sama. Naruto was able to quickly grasp the concept of chakra and was able to manipulate it to a great degree on his first day. He hasn't mastered the leaf balancing exercise yet, but I think in a few days, maybe a week, he will be ready to move on to more advanced chakra control exercises, spoke Shisui, knowing that Itachi wouldn't be able to not tell the Hokage about the seal and the chakra chain incident. The Hokage looked rather surprised, but then his face grinned and you could practically feel how happy he was. Good, good. Then Naruto isn't having any troubles if he could master the first chakra control exercise in just 1 week. I was concerned that his large reserves would cause him problems, spoke the Hokage like a weight had lifted from his chest. Yes, I believe he will be able to learn all 3 of the general chakra control exercises in 1 month if his progress remains steady. After that we will teach him how to adjust to his new eye's abilities, spoke Itachi in his clearest voice that lacked most emotions. Good, good. But can I ask you two to do me a favor? I am supposed to do it, but with the seal that has already ruined his life I just can't do it. Can you put this seal over Naruto's eye that has the Byakugan? It only needs to be placed on top of the eyelid, spoke the Hokage as he handed Itachi a small squared piece of paper that had a weird Fuinjutsu symbol on it. Itachi looked surprised, but slowly took it. What type of seal is it, Hokage-sama? Asked Shisui, ignoring the look that Itachi sent him. The Hokage sighed a bit and then leaned back in his chair. While the Hyuga clan is being punished, they are strongly against an outsider having their precious dojutsu and have been fighting tooth and nail to get it back. I settled on a compromise because things with the Hyuga clan seem ready to spill over in the streets. That seal acts somewhat like the seal on the Hyuga branch family, except it can't be used to remotely cause pain to Naruto. What it is designed for is when Naruto-kun closes the eye with the Byakugan inside of it, the seal seals the eyelid shut. The Hyuga do not want others to know, beside those who already do, about someone else having the Byakugan. I had to agree with them on this because it will bring a lot of unwanted attention towards Naruto that he simply does not need right now. So Naruto will use this seal to keep from accidentally opening his eye when he isn't supposed to. All he will need to do to open his eye is send chakra to the seal that will unlock it, making it possible for Naruto to use the Byakugan if need be. It also will destroy the eye if anyone tries to remove it. And should Naruto die, that seal will seal away the dojutsu, keeping it from falling into the wrong hands, spoke the Hokage with a sigh. Itachi and Shisui both nodded before disappearing at the same time. Naruto's apartment. When Itachi and Shisui appeared in Naruto's room, Shisui took the slip of paper from Itachi and started looking over it with his Sharingan still active. After a moment, he handed it to Itachi. Itachi got the message and started to look over it as well. I can't find anything that would make it like a slave collar for Naruto. It seems to do exactly what the Hokage said, spoke Itachi, as he handed the seal back to Shisui, who continued to look over it. Alright, I guess we have no choice anyways, spoke Shisui, as he walked over to Naruto, leaned down, and pressed the bottom side of the seal against Naruto's sleeping eye where the ink was, and then channeled chakra into it. When he peeled the paper off, there was the symbol resting on Naruto's right eyelid like a badass tattoo. Soon the seal faded away, leaving it like it was never there. You do realize that Naruto will be able to see the seal whenever he uses Byakugan next time, as they are able to actually see barriers, and he will also be able to see the chakra inside of the seal as well, since the chakra will not be his own, spoke Itachi, seemingly thinking the Hokage had made a blunder. Well, the Hokage never told us not to tell him the seal was there. Maybe he expects us to, spoke Shisui as he looked down at Naruto, who was sleeping with a small smile of contentment. Whatever, today has been way too long and I need some sleep, spoke Itachi as he left the room quickly. Alright, well, I guess I should grab some Z's as well, spoke Shisui as he disappeared and went to his own house. As Naruto woke up, he took a deep breath and let out a loud yawn. When he did this, something stuck to his mouth, making it hard for him to breathe, and when he exhaled, he heard the fluttering of paper. What the hell, spoke Naruto as he slowly started to open his eyes. But oddly, his right eye wouldn't open up. Looking through his left eye, Naruto noticed that there was something in front of his face. What is that, spoke Naruto as he reached up and started to feel whatever it was on his face. He soon came to realize that it was paper, which annoyed him. He quickly pulled the first piece of paper off, but then a horrible sensation of tape being ripped off of his forehead rushed through his body. Oh, www, shouted Naruto as he jumped up with anime tears in his eyes as he looked at the piece of paper in his hand. It had a piece of duct tape at the top of it as well as some writing in the center of it. Ow, that hurt. Who did that? Asked Naruto as he started to read through some of the notes. He soon found out that it had been Shisui, though he wasn't very surprised. He was the only one he knew who would do something like that to him. Dear Naruto. Hey buddy, it is me, Shisui the Great. I am leaving you this message because I figured you would probably want to know why you can't open up your right eye. I bet you did something really stupid and started to freak out like a chicken. Too bad I wasn't there to see it, but anyways, the reason you can't open your eye is really simple. The Hokage and the Hyuga clan have been arguing, and it is possible that it can even result in a physical fight, something that must be avoided. To compromise a bit with the Hyuga, the Hokage decided that by placing that seal on your eye you will gain a modicum of protection. You see, nobody is allowed to know that you have the Byakugan, other than those who already know. This seal will keep your eyelid shut at all times, making sure you don't slip up. I would also not recommend trying to remove it because if you do, that seal will activate and destroy the eye. The same will happen if you die. So to make sure the secrets of the Hyuga clan and a valuable asset to Konoha is safe, this idea has been implemented. So don't worry, the seal can't hurt you, just your eye. We'll have a good day. I bet you will love the other surprises that are in store for you in a bit. Evil laughter. From your friend, Shursui the Great. Oh, so that's why I can't open up my eyes, spoke Naruto as he rubbed his right eye, expecting to feel where the seal had been placed, but feeling nothing but smooth skin. I wonder what he meant by all that other stuff, spoke Naruto as he stood up and walked over to his dresser. He ran into it, hit his head, and then fell back down. When he did this, he started rolling around, holding his forehead in pain. Ow, why did I run into the dresser, spoke Naruto as he massaged the red mark on his head that kept taking a beating today. It already had tape that felt like it had been fused to his head, ripped off. Now he ran into a dresser, so what was next? As Naruto started to stand up, a piece of paper fell off of his bed and landed in front of him. What is this? Asked Naruto as he looked back at his bed and saw a bunch of papers that looked like they all had separate notes on them. He wondered why they hadn't just written everything down on one piece of paper, but this was Shursui, and he did seem to be a random type of guy. P.S. With your right eye being covered up like this, your vision will be affected. You see, Naruto, the way you perceive things as far, close, etc., are determined by your eyes working together. With one of your eyes completely closed at all times, your depth perception will undoubtedly be affected, causing things to appear further than they are or closer. I so wish I could be there to watch you run into things, but I have other responsibilities, unfortunately. From your friend, Shursui the Fastest. He really is a vain guy, isn't he? Thought Naruto as he stood back up and looked around. Things didn't seem too different, but there were subtle differences. Naruto just shrugged his shoulders, not taking the time to try and get used to his new depth perception, reached out for the handle on his dresser. When he did this, apparently it was closer than he thought because he jammed his hand into the metal handle. Damn it, shouted Naruto as he fell back on his butt and started to wave his hands around, feeling a stinging sensation running through his fingers. He let his hand get better before standing up and approaching the dresser with more caution this time. When Naruto opened up his dresser, he was shocked by what he saw. Lined up were multiple outfits with high collars and long shorts that went right below his knees with lots of pockets. As he looked through the clothes looking for his things, another note fell out of one of the shirts right in front of Naruto. When Naruto picked it up, he face faulted. PPS. I hate your clothes, so I threw them away and got better ones. Hope you like them. From your friend, Shursui the Most Stylish. Naruto was really starting to think this guy was crazy. Looking at them, he honestly couldn't see any reason they were better or worse than his old clothes. Naruto had absolutely no sense of style or a sense for anything that matched. He had only bought the clothes that he wore because they were dirt cheap, while everything else was extremely expensive for him. Shrugging his shoulders, he pulled the outfits down. He noticed that they all had subtle differences, though for the most part they all had the same design. Naruto turned one of the shirts around and saw a giant swirl on the back. He raised his eyebrow at that, but he wasn't surprised when another knot fell down. PPPS. As you probably know, this symbol is featured in the symbol of Konoha, but what you don't know is that this is the symbol of the Uzumaki clan, the clan that Konoha borrowed it from until they were destroyed during the Second Great Shinobi War. Another thing that you do not know is that you are a descendant of this clan. Your last name, Uzumaki, wasn't just some random name that the orphanage picked out for you, but your actual name. This is the symbol of your clan, so wear it with pride. From your friend, Shursui the Understanding. Naruto's eyes grew a few sizes, which strained against Naruto's eyelid, but he ignored that when he looked at the symbol. He gently rubbed it, feeling a connection to the family that he never knew, and with a warm smile put it back on. When Naruto was done getting dressed, he looked much different. He wore black cargo pants that were a bit long, stopping just below his kneecap. He wore black ninja sandals with gray ankle socks. Around both of his legs was ninja tape that hid his legs from view. He was wearing a plain gray high-collared shirt with short sleeves. On the back of his shirt was a large deep red swirl that took up a large portion of the upper half of the center of his back. When Naruto looked into the mirror, he nodded his head, thinking it was all pretty cool, or so he hoped so. Naruto did squint his eye while looking into the mirror, because he could have sworn his face wasn't as round as it had been. His cheeks were actually starting to straighten out and deflate a bit. Maybe he was just starting to lose that baby fat in his face. Today was his first day at the Ninja Academy, and he didn't want Shui sending him there looking foolish. When he looked into the mirror, he saw how clumped, dirty, and untamed his hair was. He hadn't ever brushed it before. Nobody had ever told him that he was supposed to. He was even the one who cut his hair, but now a weird feeling ran through his body. Felt like he wanted a change. He was tired of whom he was, and after getting this new eye, meeting Shui, and these nice things he had gotten for him, Naruto felt it was time to stop being the child he had been. Quickly, Naruto turned on the water and dipped his hands in it. After getting enough water, he put it in his hair and soaked it. He continues to do this until all of his hair was wet. After that, Naruto spent the next 15 minutes running his fingers through his hair. It was painful, tedious, and he had a crick in his neck, but he felt it was worth it. When he picked his head back up, he shook it, and when he figured most of the excess water had been flung out, looked back into the mirror. Looking back at him was his face, but now his hair was all flung back with this cool windblown look. The water in his hair gave it that extra shine and held it together. Naruto wanted to keep that, so he grabbed a bit of grease he used to keep the doors from squeaking and ran it through his hair. When it was all said and done, Naruto figured he looked pretty cool. "Alright, where are my goggles?" spoke Naruto as he walked back into his bedroom, but stubbed his foot on the door, causing him to nearly fall to the ground in pain. Naruto held still as the throbbing went away. When he finally got to his nightstand, he opened the drawer and looked inside. Instead of his goggles, there was a note and a pair of black gloves with metal on one side of them. Naruto wondered what their purpose was since they didn't have any fingers. PPPPS. Those goggles were dull and served no purpose. These will protect your hands while keeping your fingers nimble enough to weave hand signs when you learn how. From your friend, Shui the genius. Naruto just sighed a bit and then put on the gloves. They were warm, and he wished he had gotten some of these earlier in his life. They would have kept him from having to rub his hands together so much during the colder months. Before leaving, Naruto read through all of the other notes on his bed. He found them informative as well as helpful. He was glad he had read them since they told him a few ways of getting over his visual problem, though he was glad that he would get used to it eventually. The best thing, though, by far, was the fridge of food full of everything he could have imagined. Naruto's stomach growled loudly, and so he quickly grabbed the fresh mild, a bowl, and a box of cereal that he had always wondered what tasted like. Naruto slowly ate the cereal, enjoying every bite. The cold milk mixed in with the sweetness of the cereal was an amazing taste in Naruto's opinion. With every bite he took, he could taste more of the cereal and the sugar mixing with the milk to create an amazing blend. He absently wondered if he should try and get a blender and pre-blend his cereal tomorrow, but then thought better of it and just went back to enjoying his cereal. "That was so good," shouted Naruto as he stood up and put everything away. He quickly washed the bowls and put them to the side to dry off. After that, he grabbed his stuff and left the house, but not before locking up as he made it to the street. The street was a wide road that crossed through Konoha, kind of like a main road, with shops on all sides selling various things to just about anyone they could. In the mornings, the people would swarm these stands like ants on honey, and by the time they had left, the stand owners were tired and irritated. Naruto had always ignored them as it would only bring more trouble if he looked at them or tried talking, but now things were different. Instead of the hate-filled glares that he always got, he was now getting new whisperings. He strained his ears to hear what they were talking about while trying to his best to walk in a straight line and avoid any obstacles. It wouldn't do to run into anything because of how far or close it looked, but wasn't. "Hey, it is him," spoke one of the women as she not so subtly pointed towards Naruto as he walked past. "Yeah, I heard he got a large sum of money from the Hyugas because the Hokage made them. I can't believe the Hokage would do something like that for someone like him," spoke another woman as she and the first started gossiping about what they had heard. "Dad, why is everyone looking at that boy like that?" spoke a little boy about 4 or 5 years old. The old man was quick to inform his son on the dangers Naruto possessed. "You are to never associate yourself with him. Am I clear?" asked the man as he looked down at his son with a stern gaze that the boy seemed to shrink from. "Yes, father, I will stay away from him," was all the boy said. But it seemed to be enough for the man as he nodded his head and led his son away from the area in which Naruto was walking by. "How did he ever get such fine clothing?" asked a woman as she looked at Naruto with her husband, who was giving Naruto that hate-filled glare he was so used to getting. "I have no idea, but if I had to guess, I would say he stole them," spoke another woman with a nasty tone in her voice. The men at their arms started walking towards Naruto, but then a hand grabbed them both by the wrists, causing them great pain. When they looked back, they came face to face with a member of the ANBU force. The Hokage has decreed anyone who even attempts to harm Naruto Uzumaki it to be dealt with. You two have been warned, spoke the masked man before he disappeared, letting the two men's wrists go, much to their relief. They looked at each other with pale faces that were sweating before looking at Naruto's back as he had already walked by, before getting up and walking back towards their women. Naruto continued to hear talk like this, but easily ignored it. It had been the same since the day he was born, though that didn't mean he wasn't entirely affected. He was happy in a way. A lot of people were talking about how nice his clothes were. Even though they all claimed he stole them or something like that, it must have meant he looked nice at least. Eventually Naruto came to a stop before a large building with the symbol for fire in the center of it. It was a large building with white walls and wood rain guards. There were windows in various places and it had trees growing around it. There was a large clear area beside and behind the academy for training purposes. All around the entrance was families kissing their children goodbye, telling them how great they were going to be, sharing stories from when they were in class and other things as well. When Naruto got close enough, they all turned to look at him, giving him their best looks of intimidation. Right when Naruto was about to walk on past them, a soft hand touched his shoulder. When he looked up, he saw the Hokage and smiled a bit. The other families looked scared because the Hokage gave them all a sharp look. The students looked on with amazement and awe as they were standing before their powerful village leader. Earlier, when Hiruzen showed up to academy, he saw a young boy looking at the crowds of happy families right before they turned around and gave the boy a nasty look. The boy didn't seem to be affected, though the Hokage had suspected it was his Uchiha poker face, but when he got closer he saw that the boy didn't have the Uchiha fan, but the Uzumaki swirl, and instead of black hair it was a bright blonde. The Hokage's eyes widened a bit when he realized it was Naruto. Quickly the Hokage walked up and put his hand on Naruto's shoulder right when the boy was about to start walking past the horrid looks. He made sure to give all of them, except the children, a look that told them they had better watch it. He was satisfied with the results. Present. Naruto and the Hokage walked through the academy, getting a plethora of looks and even giving a few of their own. The Hokage led Naruto to his room where they both walked in together. All of the kids in the classroom looked at the Hokage with awe and Naruto with confusion. The two teachers were like mirror opposites. One had dark skin, dark hair, black eyes, a scar running across his nose, and a humble aura about him. The other had a sickly pale complexion, with snow-white hair, gray eyes, and had a dark aura about him. Naruto, these two are your senseis Mizuki and Irika. Please introduce yourself, spoke the Hokage as he stepped back a bit to let Naruto have the floor. Naruto still had that bored, disinterested look on his face, but nodded his head. Hey, my name is Naruto Uzumaki. Pleasure to meet you, spoke Naruto with a short bow of the head to show a bit of respect, but it wasn't a full-waist bow for sure. The teachers both gave small smiles, though Naruto knew they were a bit forced. Hello Naruto, my name is Irika Umino. I will be your teacher for the time you are here at the academy, spoke Irika as he too gave a small bow, but that was it. Hey Naruto, my name is Mizuki, and I will be assisting Irika teach you for the rest of the time you are here at the academy, spoke Mizuki with that same grin. His bow was more mocking than anything, but it was still a bow. Alright Naruto, I have to get back to work, but if there is anything you need to talk about, my door is always open to you. If you have any troubles, let me know, spoke the Hokage as he shot Irika and Mizuki looks that made them gulp and look away from him. Alright Hokage-sama, I will catch you later, spoke Naruto in that same cool tone that made the Hokage grin. The boy was playing the cool card already, but he couldn't blame him. Those clothes really gave off that appeal, so you had to capitalize when it was fresh. Alright Naruto, if you will just take a seat anywhere we can get started, spoke Irika, though his tone was neutral now that the Hokage was gone. Naruto took this as a good sign since he wasn't openly mean, but then again that might have just been because of the subtly threat the Hokage had passed their way before leaving. Okay sensei, spoke Naruto as he walked up the steps past various people that were all looking at him and whispering various things. He made it to the second to last row without falling, which was a miracle, and sat at that desk because it was right beside a window and there was nobody else sitting in it. Okay class, we are going to be taking a competency test to see where you stand academically. Don't worry, this will not be used against your average. We just need to know what you all know, so we will know what to start teaching you, spoke Irika as Mizuki started to pass out pieces of paper to everyone. When he got to Naruto, they locked eyes and it was like their wills had clashed, but Naruto was indomitable. He had a will of steel, and Mizuki quickly gave up and slammed his paper on his desk before walking away, passing out paper to the other students. Naruto did see Irika shoot Mizuki a look that said, "Are you trying to get us killed?" It was really funny, but Naruto went to reading his test. Naruto was pretty smart on his own, but he had spent a lot of time in the Hokage's office, in which the Hokage talked to him about things like history, not only of their village but just history in general. The Hokage had been the one who had taught him how to read, to write, and he had taught Naruto a few manners that he had promised would help him when he made some friends. He was everything to Naruto, though Shisui and Itachi did mean a lot to Naruto. Naruto remembered how the Hokage was even able to teach him basic mathematics even when writing something down or doing something else. The man must have really had some serious multitasking abilities. The Hokage was Naruto's best friend, his teacher, his guide, counselor, grandfather figure, protector, and financial aid dependent. The old man was a great guy. He had even been willing to fight the Hyuga clan just so Naruto could keep his new eye. When Naruto was done, Mizuki snatched the paper out of his hand, but Naruto gave him a look that made him stop in place before resuming what he was doing. When all of the papers were turned in, Irika put them in a neat stack on his desk. "Alright guys, now we will need to test you all to see how physically fit you guys are," spoke Irika, making Naruto gulp a bit. Though Naruto will not be able to participate by orders of the Hokage. He is still suffering from an injury he had gotten earlier this month and will need some time to heal fully, spoke Irika as he held up a note towards Naruto. Naruto could see it and nodded his head, thanking the old man for his sharp thinking. Naruto hadn't expected much because, like him, almost none of them had received any ninja training. The only ones who had any skill whatsoever or even held themselves correctly were those of just beginners. Naruto watched them punching dummies, trying to throw shuriken and kunai, and wrestling for a bit before Irika called them all back into the classroom. "Alright class, it seems that you all have some talent, but you are all beginners. Mizuki and I will guide you for the next 6 years, teaching you the skills you will need to know to become genin. Now that is all for today, so you can all go home now, but remember to come prepared tomorrow," spoke Irika. And for some reason Naruto felt this guy was going to buy the type that drones through his lessons and expected people to listen anyways. After grabbing a syllabus, Naruto followed the crowd outside and watched as the parents grabbed onto their children like fishermen with gigs. Naruto hadn't expected to get grabbed himself. He had expected everyone to glare at him as he walked by and then walk home in silence. But when a big strong hand grabbed him and pulled him into some dude's chest, Naruto started to have a problem with that. "Ah, isn't he so cute?" shouted a voice that Naruto knew all too well. Naruto tried to look up, but the shirt was in his way and the arms were holding him too tight. "My son is going to be a genius, I just know it. I mean, look at this slicked back hair, and these awesome clothes," continued the voice, obviously trying to sound like a middle-aged woman doting over her child. When Naruto was finally able to break free, he took a few steps back and looked up to see Shisui's smiling face. Naruto was shocked that he had come to pick him up in front of all these people, but Shisui didn't seem to care about the looks that the other people were giving them. "Shisui," spoke Naruto in a whiny voice like one of the other kids whose mother wouldn't leave them alone. The type whose parents embarrassed them and they wanted to be anywhere else but right there. "Oh no you don't, young man. You are coming with me right this instant. Didn't I raise you better than that? What you sounding all embarrassed about, asked Shisui, making a funny face as he moved his head right to left and back again. It was really funny and caused Naruto to start laughing. Shisui smiled, knowing his mission was complete. "Hey Shisui, thanks for the..." But he was cut off by Shisui, who seemed to looking around with squinted eyes. "What is going on?" asked Naruto, not getting what was going on. Shisui looked down at Naruto and grabbed him before disappearing in a burst of flames. Right as Shisui and Naruto disappeared, Itachi jumped down and started to try and get to Naruto, but he wasn't fast enough. Laying on the ground was a note. When Itachi picked it up, his eyebrow started to twitch violently. "Dear Itachi, I figured Naruto had suffered through enough boring crap for one day, so you don't have to worry, I will take over teaching him today. How about you play with Sasuke-chan instead?" Evil laugh. From your friend, Shisui the friendliest. Itachi was so mad that fire-natured chakra rushed through his hand and incinerated the paper note in a flash. He was just about to go looking for them when a nasally voice traveled through the air. "Itachi and I," shouted Sasuke as he looked and saw his brother standing by the entrance. He was so happy his brother had come to get him and quickly ran over to him. "Hey Sasuke," spoke Itachi in a sweet voice that made Sasuke smile. "Are you going to walk me home?" asked Sasuke as he looked up at his big brother with a smile on his face. Itachi looked at the ashes in his hand and sighed. Sure, I could do that, I guess, spoke Itachi, as he took his brother's hand and began walking him towards their clan's compound. With Naruto and Shisui. As Shisui and Naruto came out of the burst of fire, Naruto could hear Shisui laughing. When he looked back, he saw Shisui looking at a building that could barely be seen from the top of the trees. It was the academy, but Naruto didn't get why Shisui was laughing. Ha ha ha, Itachi is going to be so mad, laughed Shisui as he fell to the ground and clutched his gut like it was in pain as tears started to fall down his face. When he had recovered, he saw the confused look on Naruto's face and went on to explain that Itachi had a clingy younger brother named Sasuke who he had dumped on Itachi. Oh, that it funny, spoke Naruto as he chuckled a bit, not really getting the full extent of the joke, and also from lack of use he was a bit awkward doing it. So now we are going to start some training, spoke Shisui, as he smirked at the happy look in Naruto's eye. He went to say something but Naruto cut him off. Check this out, Sensei, spoke Naruto as he ran over to a tree and grabbed a leaf. Sensei, I like it, thought Shisui as he rubbed his chin. When Naruto got back, he put the leaf on his head and it started to float up a bit. He was able to keep it there for the required 10 minutes before letting it drop. Shisui was impressed. That was really good, Naruto. How did you get so good at this since yesterday? Asked Shisui as he took the leaf and inspected it just in case Naruto is trying to pull a fast one on him. I don't know really. When I woke up I felt refreshed and tried it before I went to school. And it just worked, spoke Naruto with a shrug of his shoulders. But he was happy. He didn't feel like spending the next week trying to lift a leaf off of his head. Though no doubt he would happily do it if it meant he got to stay with Shisui longer. It must have been that seal. It was probably messing up his chakra, thought Shisui. But he was interrupted by Naruto questioning him on what he was to do next. Next you will be climbing this tree, spoke Shisui as he handed Naruto a kunai. The boy looked at him funny before looking at the tree. But I already know how to climb trees, spoke Naruto, not getting what the big deal was. He thought he was supposed to be learning chakra control. Shisui gave him a small friendly pop on the head and said, not like that, like this, before sticking one foot to the tree, then the other, and finally starting to walk up the tree like he would the road. Wow, that is so cool, shouted Naruto as he ran up beside the tree and saw that Shisui's foot was really stuck to the tree and that it was no trick. Yeah, I am, aren't I, spoke Shisui as he back flipped off of the tree right before he landed in front of Naruto with a smile on his face. All you have to do is channel chakra to your feet and then put your foot to the tree. You have to give it just enough or you won't stick, spoke Shisui. But then he heard a loud shout and saw Naruto running towards the tree. The moment his foot hit the tree, it exploded, sending Naruto flying backwards. When he got up, he looked like he was seeing stars. Also, if you put too much in, that will happen, finished Shisui, getting a look from Naruto that said, really? One more thing, from now on when you don't listen and just rush in head first before even letting me finish what I was saying, I will not train you for one day, spoke Shisui, hearing Naruto jump up and start telling him how sorry he was. Nope, you dug your own grave with this one. I won't take a day away this time, but I won't tell you how to remove the seal on your eye until you have mastered tree walking, spoke Shisui as he went and sat down on the stump. Naruto was a bit depressed, but quickly picked himself up before going back to trying to walk up the tree like Shisui. Shisui watched Naruto try to tree walk and had to admit, except for his first try, he was doing very well. It was obvious he was a practical learner, as well as an audio learner as well. He would learn well with some positive encouragement and a good teacher, though the ones at the academy were not the type of learner like Naruto would be able to learn from, since their voices would surely put him to sleep. Shisui was going to have to work fast if he wanted to get stronger quicker. Naruto and Shisui were standing on a large lake that was close to the Uchiha clan compound. The water was crystal clear and very deep with lots of fish inside. There was some nice white sand all around the lake before some light green grass started to form, though after that there was deep forest of dark green trees. There was a small dark trail that led to a clearing further out that they used to take, but now that Naruto knew the tree walking exercise, they just used the trees. Well, Naruto, I am proud of you. I didn't think you would actually be able to do it, but mastering all of the chakra control exercises all the way up to the water walking exercise. But there is only one way to know whether or not you have truly mastered it, spoke Shisui as he looked down on Naruto. Naruto had become like a little brother to him these past 3 months, and he had become his big brother figure. He had made it his personal mission to train Naruto personally, and if that pissed Itachi off because he had practically stolen his mission, well, so be it. What do you mean, Shisui? I am water walking right now, spoke Naruto as he walked in a circle to emphasize his point. He watched as Shisui started to laugh, but he didn't get it. Naruto, the one thing you must learn about all ninja techniques is that if they cannot be used in combat, then they are not even worth mentioning, let alone mastered, spoke Shursui as he smiled at the dumbfounded look on Naruto's face. The boy was a quick learner, and now after that seal had been removed, he seemed to be able to use his chakra much easier. What are you talking about? I could totally fight while standing on water, spoke Naruto, confidently thinking that Shursui was either messing with him again or was just underestimating him. Naruto then remembered that he had no combat skills and hoped that Shursui wouldn't call him out on it. Oh, is that right? How about you activate your Byakugan, and let's see how long you keep standing, spoke Shursui with a grin on his face. Naruto was just like he had been when he was a kid and much how he was now. He didn't want Naruto to lose that innocence regardless of reasons. Okay, I will show you I can do this, spoke Naruto as he spread his legs a bit and got ready. Here it goes. Byakugan, shouted Naruto as his eye activated, causing the veins on the side of his head to bulge and his vision extended to all around him right before he fell into the water. Ha 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 ha. Oh yeah, you are some kind of master, laughed Shursui as he nearly fell over when Naruto came back to the surface and gave him that dirty look. When Naruto was able to get back on the water and still have his Byakugan active, Shursui was impressed. Why did I fall through? Asked Naruto as he coughed up some water. He had been so shocked when he fell through that he had sucked some of it in and it had gotten into his lungs. When you sent the chakra to your eye, you lost focus of the chakra you were sending to your feet, making you fall in. It was really funny. But if you are thinking about some kind of on-water fighting, then I would avoid it, water boy, spoke Shursui as he poked Naruto's forehead like he had seen Itachi do to his little brother, though this time it caused Naruto to fall backwards and back into the water, causing Shursui to laugh even harder. Shursui, you jerk, shouted Naruto as he got back on top of the water. He was a little shaky, but all in all he had a good grasp of what he was supposed to be doing. He looked over at Shursui and looked at his chakra. He noticed that Shursui had very strong. Haha, well, maybe you still need quite a bit of work. It looks like it is time to start working on someone's taijutsu and ninjutsu, spoke Shursui as he grabbed Naruto by the collar of his shirt and picked him up with ease, showing surprising strength. He thought the cute way Naruto was pouting with his arms crossed was just too funny. Really? You're going to teach me ninjutsu? Spoke Naruto. A happy look started to form on his face. He had really wanted to start learning some ninjutsu, but Itachi had been all "you're too young," or "you're not ready." It was really annoying, and it was made worse when Shursui told him that Itachi was teaching his little brother ninjutsu, though apparently it was a required clan thing. Well, yeah, but you will need to know your elemental affinity, and then you will need to train very hard to master the steps 2 of that element. And then after all of that, you will need to actually start learning various jutsu to add to your jutsu repertoire, spoke Shursui, really putting the downer on Naruto's mood. That sounded like it could take years, something that really sounded like it sucked. Seeing the despondent look on Naruto's face, Shursui decided to try and cheer him up a bit. Hey champ, don't get down. I know it sounds like it could take a long time, but that is for normal people who don't have any real talent. I can see that you have that in spades, so it shouldn't take you too long, spoke Shursui with a smile on his face. Naruto's sad face quickly turned to a happy one again, and Shursui thought Itachi could suck it. He was going to teach Naruto and ninjutsu, whether Itachi thought it was a good idea or not. Yes, shouted Naruto as he lifted his arms up. But that was when Shursui let go of him, which caused him to fall into the water, creating a large splash in the water. When he came back up, he looked anything but pleased. Well, first let's check your elemental affinity, spoke Shursui as he pulled out a piece of paper. There wasn't anything special about it to his normal eye, but to his Byakugan he could see that it was different from other plants, like it had a chakra of its own. This Naruto is chakra paper. All you have to do is channel your chakra into it, and depending on its reaction, we will be able to figure out what sort of affinity you have, spoke Shursui as he handed Naruto the chakra paper. He noticed Naruto looking at it funny and could only assume that the great insight of the Byakugan picked up something his Sharingan hadn't when he first looked at one. Okay, spoke Naruto as he started to channel his chakra into the paper. He watched as the chakra started to dance around before it started to have a violent reaction. The chakra swirled around for a bit and then spread out, though a lot concentrated around the center fold of the paper. This all happened in a split second, and to Naruto's normal eye this never happened. Soon the paper cut down the middle, though the right side dampened considerably. What does this mean, Shursui? Asked Naruto as he showed Shursui the 2 pieces of paper with the dampened half. Naruto couldn't tell what Shursui was thinking, because in rare moments Shursui's face would all but lock up and he would look stoic like Itachi would when wearing his ANBU outfit. Shursui thought for a moment before reaching out and taking the pieces from Naruto and looking them over. After a while, Shursui smiled and handed the pieces back to Naruto. Naruto watched as Shisui seemed to think about something before it seemed he came to a conclusion. Well, it looks like you have two elemental affinities, spoke Shisui, as he pulled Naruto in and gave him a hug in congratulations. The way it split down the middle means that you have a wind release affinity and the dampen side means you also have a water release affinity. It is rare for someone to have two affinities, spoke Shisui, as he continued to look at Naruto. So why do I have two affinities? Asked Naruto as he looked at the paper and then at Shisui. It was weird because he was able to look at everything at once with his Byakugan, but for now he decided to release it. Once the veins went back to normal, Naruto felt the little depletion the Byakugan caused to go away. If I had to guess, I would say it was because of that eye you got from that Hyuga, though they are almost all known for their earth release affinities, not that they use them. I wonder how that Hyuga got a water release affinity, spoke Shisui as he scratched his chin. Naruto looked up at him, not understand what he meant, but then looked down into his reflection and looked at his white eye. So because I have this new eye I got a new affinity? If that were the case, then why don't other ninja get transplants or something so that they can have more natural affinities? Spoke Naruto, not getting why this idea wasn't explored. He could only imagine a few buddies with different affinities trading organs so that they could use multiple elements without restriction. That is because even if people get transplants, their chakra network almost never links with the new organ, leaving them alive, true, but not with any other benefits. There are cases though where a person is able to adapt to the new organ and it fits them perfectly afterwards. These people do get new affinities just like you, spoke Shisui as he led Naruto to the shoreline. Naruto was amazed at what Shisui was telling him and felt special that he was able to benefit like this. You are also lucky since that means the Byakugan has adapted to you in a way no other has. Naruto, it may be possible for you to pass on the Byakugan to your children, spoke Shisui seriously. He looked back at Naruto and then said, but you must keep this quiet. If the Hyuga clan finds out about this, they will hunt you down and force you to join their clan. After that, they will brand you with their curse mark, making you a slave like the rest of the branch family. Okay, Shisui. I won't tell anyone, spoke Naruto, getting another hug from Shisui before he looked Naruto in the eyes. Naruto looked back, wondering what he would say next. So what element do you want to learn first? Though I am a bit disappointed you don't have a fire release affinity that I could teach you, spoke Shisui with a grin on his face. Naruto grinned as well and then got to thinking. Well, you could always give me your left eye and let me have your fire release. Then you could teach me all you want, laughed Naruto, thinking it was funny, though he fell over laughing when he saw the shocked look on Shisui's face. You little punk. What, the Byakugan not enough for you? Now you want the Sharingan to, spoke Shisui, though there was no heat in his voice as he reached down and started to tickle Naruto, causing tears to roll down his eyes. Naruto laughed and laughed, but eventually Shisui let him up so he could catch his breath. When he had caught his breath, he started to think about what element he wanted to learn. In all honesty, he thought water release would be fun and all since it was a defensive element, but wind release really tickled his fancy. What about wind release? I think that it would be a really good element to learn, and although water is a great defensive element, it just doesn't seem right to learn it first, spoke Naruto, not getting why he felt like he would be betraying his own element by learning water release first. He saw Shisui grin and knew he had something to say. Whether it was intelligent or not was up for debate. Well, I guess it is only right. While you have an affinity for both elements, it would be nice to stay true to yourself and learn what you were naturally born with. Water release can wait anyways, because if you want to learn it, then you're going to have to ask Itachi anyways. He decided to learn water release for his second nature, though all Uchiha have a fire and lighting affinity, which leaves me to believe Itachi probably learned it to be rebellious in his own way. Although I don't know how to use wind release myself, I have seen many people use it and have a great understand of it. With a little bit of reading, I am sure I can teach you everything you will need to know. Beside, with the Byakugan you can watch and see what you are doing wrong and then fix it. I bet it will only take you about 6 months tops to learn wind release instead of the usual 2 years it takes others, spoke Shisui, as he got into an open taijutsu stance. Naruto raised an eyebrow and Shisui snickered a bit before going through a wide range of taijutsu-styled movements that were great to watch. This Naruto is the Interceptor Fist, the official taijutsu style of the Uchiha clan. You see, we use this style in combination with our eyes to dodge, reverse, and defeat our enemies. It was a style invented early on in our history to take an opponent's strength and use it against them, or to let us dodge in time to avoid injury. While it is not a fact that is as known, the Byakugan can see fast movement the same as the Sharingan, though it can't copy it like the Sharingan can. This makes you an excellent candidate to learn it, spoke Shisui as he got back into a more neutral fighting stance. Naruto's eyes were like starts as he was practically radiating joy from every pore. Shisui looked at him and sweat dropped at the boy's reaction. I can't wait, shouted Naruto. Soon Shisui was showing him the very basics of the interceptor fist, and Shisui told him he was catching on very good, though like all things mastery would come with time. By the end of the day Naruto was sweating like crazy. He was tired, but he was happy. Shisui had lavished him with praise all day, and that was enough to get him through the training. XXX. Shisui quickly took Naruto home so that he could get a shower, some food, and a good night's rest. He wished he could train Naruto all day long, but Naruto had school and he had his routes for the military police. When Naruto was all cleaned up and in bed, Shisui headed out and went to find Itachi. XXX. Itachi was anything but happy with his friend Shisui. He had completely undermined his authority in this mission and had practically stolen it out from underneath him. He was just teaching Naruto whatever he felt like, though he was allowed to teach Naruto as well, though Shisui translated what he said, though if you asked Itachi it was more like dumbed down what he said. It annoyed Itachi every time Shisui would say, "He is only 6. Give him a break," which happened about every time he opened his mouth. Shisui had filled him in on Naruto's training though, so he wouldn't look stupid when they had to report to the Hokage every week, but it was still frustrating not being able to help Naruto learn to use the Byakugan or helping him with his chakra control. "Hey Itachi, guess what? Naruto has 2 nature affinities," shouted Shisui as he appeared inside of Itachi's house, though he had to disappear again as Itachi tried to grab him. When he looked over he saw Itachi giving him the evil eye. "Dude, what is your problem?" asked Shisui as he folded his arms. He saw that look Itachi got when he had to keep his emotions in check, but his eyes were murderous and his body was actually shaking a bit. "You checked his nature affinity without me. Why would you do that? What is teaching him all of the chakra control exercises not good enough for you?" asked Itachi as he got up in Shisui's face. Shisui was trying to annoy him, he was sure of it. "Hey, what is your problem? It isn't like it really matters to you anyways. You're only doing this because the Hokage told you, not because you actually care about him," shouted Shisui as he pushed Itachi so hard he came up off of his feet, landed on the table, and then rolled off of it. When he got back up he was looking at Shisui with a shocked look in his eyes. "What are you trying to say? I do care about Naruto and I can't believe you would actually say that I didn't," shouted Itachi as he knocked the table out of his way and got right in front of Shisui's face as both of their Sharingan blazed while looking at the other. "Then tell me this. If Naruto hadn't gotten the Byakugan, if the Hokage hadn't told you to train him, would you have willingly tried to help him, or would you have just left him there all by himself? Would you have actually helped him, or would you have just let him suffer in silence?" asked Shisui with a deadly look in his eyes. Itachi's face contorted into something that not even Shisui and his Sharingan could describe. "How dare you ask me such a question? You know that if that had not happened I would have focused on my ANBU work and tried to improve relations between the clan and Konoha, yet you use it in such a way that makes me look like a monster. You and I both know that I care about Naruto, and what about you? I don't remember you ever rushing to his aid before he lost his eye. Where were you when he was younger, huh?" demanded Itachi, his eye glowing. He was so angry as he looked into Shisui's Manjikyu Sharingan. He must have been very mad if that aspect of his person had come to the light. "How dare you? You and I both know I was at the Uchiha fortress with some of the other clan members making it habitable again. My father took me there when I was just a child. I haven't even been in this village for 3 months yet you have lived here for your entire life. If I had known about Naruto's plight I would have helped him any way I could. Not squandered my time trying to change people who are far too stuck in their ways," shouted Shisui as he grabbed Itachi by the collar of his shirt as Itachi did the same. Their killing intent was washing over the house and their chakra was rising and rippling around them. "What is going on here?" came a cold voice from the door. When Shisui and Itachi turned around they saw Fugaku Uchiha, Itachi's father, and the Uchiha clan head. He was looking at them with a sharp look with his Sharingan active. "Nothing, just a minor disagreement," spoke Shisui as he let go of Itachi's shirt and deactivated his Sharingan. He brushed the wrinkles out of his shirt and walked to the door. He gave Fugaku a short bow before opening up the door to leave. "Shisui, although I don't know what has caused you to act so differently, I do know that you are honest about wanting to help him, as am I. I do care, and all I want to do is help," spoke Itachi with a more mellow and somber tone. He watched as Shisui paused in the door for a moment with bated breath. "Come by next time and try to keep the talk as understandable as possible. It only hurts him when I have to repeat everything you say so he can understand you," spoke Shisui right before he disappeared without leaving so much as a piece of dust or creating any sound. "What was that all about, Itachi?" asked Fugaku as he looked at his firstborn. His Sharingan hadn't been deactivated. Itachi looked at his father and then started to walk towards his room. It is personal, spoke Itachi. He knew his father wouldn't be happy, but right now he had other things to worry about, so he would leave him be for now. As Itachi was walking down the hallway to his room, his mother stepped out of the doorway and looked at him with a light smile. Her pale skin fit well with her full black eyes and long black hair. Her outfit was simple and looked to be for a housewife, but that is all she was meant to be as far as Fugaku was concerned. Itachi, you know you can talk to me about anything. I know your father can sometimes be a bit harsh, but you know he loves you, as do I, spoke Makoto as she pulled Itachi into a big hug. Itachi sighed a bit and hugged her back. He sometimes forgot what it was like having someone hold him like this and being the one protected instead of it being the other way around. Yeah, I know, mother, but sometimes he doesn't think about others. What he is doing is wrong, and he is mad that I don't want to be a part of it, spoke Itachi as he let his mother go and began to walk away. He paused and looked back at her. You will have to make a decision one day soon, Mom, and it will greatly affect this family, of that I am sure, spoke Itachi as he walked into his room, leaving his mother standing there with a sad look on her face. The next day, Naruto was standing beside Shisui looking at Itachi with wide eyes. He hadn't seen him after the first couple of days. Shisui had told him that Itachi wanted to teach him as well, so he had promised to stop stealing him away so Itachi couldn't follow. So what are you going to be teaching Itachi? Asked Naruto, happy to see his old friend. While Itachi wasn't as fun as Shisui, he was still someone that Naruto cared for deeply. He had saved him many times and had bought him candy as well when he was a kid. Shisui and I were talking and we came to an agreement about your training. He agreed to stop interfering with my teaching if I agreed to stop being so boring, spoke Itachi with dusted red cheeks that grew a bit dark when he heard Shisui and Naruto snickering. We also agreed that you need to learn more mental aspects of being a shinobi as well as the physical. That is why we agreed to teach you the basics of fire release instead of wind release, because neither of us knows how to use wind release and Shisui is determined to teach you ninjutsu himself. We will both be working on your taijutsu and I will help you genjutsu. Other than that, you will be studying a lot, spoke Itachi with a smile. Naruto didn't have that dazed look after he got done talking like he was so used to them having. Shisui, you're not going to teach me wind release? Asked Naruto in a sad voice. Shisui felt a bit guilty, but there wasn't much he could do after Itachi got done lecturing him. I am sorry, buddy, but Itachi is right. I shouldn't try and teach you an element that I haven't learned myself because it would only hurt you in the long run. Unless you want Itachi to teach you how to use your water release, then fire release is all we have, spoke Shisui with a small smile. He saw how Naruto nodded his head a bit, even though it did look a bit sad, and felt relieved. He looked at Itachi and nodded his head, which Itachi did as well. He didn't like that Itachi had been right, but what was best for Naruto was all he was worried about. Okay, I guess fire release could be fun, but won't it be pointless since I don't have a fire release affinity? Spoke Naruto, not getting the point of affinities if you could just learn anything you wanted regardless of affinity you have. Well, Naruto, an affinity only means that learning and using the element you are aligned with is much easier to use than an element that you don't have. Many people who have two affinities have a bloodline of some sorts, usually an elemental bloodline, like let's say the lave release bloodline limit. That is a combination of fire and earth release, but only people with that specific gene that allows them to have both affinities and the ability to combine them into one element can do that, spoke Itachi, trying to keep his lecture both informative and interesting. It seemed to be working because Naruto seemed about ready to jump out of his ninja sandals. What? That is so cool. There are people who can actually create lava for ninjutsu. I bet they are really strong, spoke Naruto as he basically was jumping up and down. He couldn't believe there were people out there that could do that, and he wanted to find out what other amazing people were out there. Yes, people with bloodlines have a distinct advantage over those who do not, but like all things there is a downside. To learn to use an elemental bloodline like lava release, you have to have at least the basic training and understanding of the two base elements. This means that if you had the lava release bloodline, then you would have to learn how to use fire and earth release before you can start learning lava release, which takes a long time and serious training. Some people spend a lot of their training trying to master these abilities but forsake other skills like taijutsu, so when they are in a situation where their ninjutsu is useless, then they are at a severe disadvantage, spoke Shisui as he pulled out his tanto and showed Naruto. Unlike them though, Itachi and I have expanded our skills into multiple fields and have become quite skilled at them. You should do the same if you wish to live a long time, spoke Shisui as he put his tanto back on his back. So although lava release is powerful, it is difficult to learn and is time-consuming. That means that I should gradually work my way getting stronger, and then when I have a good base learn more advanced skill, right Shisui? Asked Naruto with a smile on his face. Shursui smiled and rubbed his head, getting another smile from him, which made Shursui grin. Itachi was surprised Naruto thought it through so thoroughly and had come up with such an adult answer. He looked down at Shursui and then Shursui looked up at him. Their Sharingan locked so they could start talking. You were right. I should have tried to gradually change his way of thinking instead of all at once, spoke Itachi with a sigh of defeat. He didn't like losing and knew that this was a significant loss. It is alright, Itachi. Naruto is still young and has a background that you couldn't really relate to. All he needs is a bit of positive encouragement and he will be able to do anything. All he needs is someone to gently guide him to reveal his true power, spoke Shursui, as he looked down at Naruto with a fond smile. Itachi nodded with a smile and Shursui did the same as well. So you guys are not going to teach me elemental ninjutsu? Asked Naruto, thinking that this was their way of kindly breaking it to him that they were not going to teach him to use cool ninjutsu. Shursui smiled and shook his head. No, buddy, we are going to teach you ninjutsu, but we will not be spending all of our time on it. You need to have a wider array of skills, so we will be teaching you taijutsu, shurikenjutsu, elemental training. We need to see if you have any skill with genjutsu, maybe some weapon training, and then we will mess around to see what else could be helpful in the future once you have a good foundation, spoke Shursui as he pulled out a scroll and handed it to Naruto. That is a scroll on fire manipulation. I figured you could use it to train at home if you got bored. Cool, shouted Naruto as he opened it up and then began to read. His reading wasn't the best after all, but he was still much better than most kids. I will be teaching you shurikenjutsu, survival training, stealth training, maybe poison making or just building up you immunity to them, and a few other skills you will need for the more subtly ninja aspects, spoke Itachi, smiling a bit knowing that this could be fun. And I will be teaching you fire-style ninjutsu, testing your skills with genjutsu, taijutsu, and a few other things that could be useful when confronting strong enemies, spoke Shursui, sure that Naruto would love that he was training him in all of the really cool things. This is going to be awesome, shouted Naruto with a pumped-up fist. 6 months later. Shursui and Itachi were in the Hokage's office looking at the old man smoking his pipe. He was in a relaxed state with the markings on his face folded by the wrinkles on his face. His Hokage robes were as white as ever, hiding the battle armor that he wore that was a little too revealing in most opinions. So Itachi, Shursui, why did you ask to have a meeting with me? Asked the Hokage as he tapped his pipe on his desk to knock the ashes out of it and refilled it with new tobacco. When his new tobacco had been added, he used a small fire jutsu to light it. I don't know why he is here, but I came to talk about the Uzumaki clan, spoke Shursui, as he looked over at Itachi, who had an annoyed look on his face. He gave Shursui his best Uchiha glare, which left the older Uchiha unfazed. I came to learn a bit as well, thank you, spoke Itachi as he rubbed his temples. It didn't matter where Shursui was, he would still act like an idiot unless he was on the battlefield. Itachi sometimes wondered if he was either a genius and used the fact that so many though he was stupid to his advantage, or if he was the crazy sort of genius who was just really smart in the right situations. What do you boys want to know about the Uzumakis? Does this have something to do with Naruto-kun? Asked the Hokage, giving them a confused look. Not many people knew about the Uzumaki clan after their fall during the Second Great War. They were nearly forgotten in the aftermath of the Third Great Shinobi War and the Nine Tails attack. Yes, it does have something to do with Naruto, but we just want to know if there were things that the Uzumaki excelled and were terrible at so we could plan accordingly, spoke Shursui, trying to make sure that everything he learned had a valuable excuse. He wanted to know more about them because for some reason they just felt like they had something more to do with Naruto other than his heritage. Where should I begin? I guess with the beginning of their history. At first there was just the Uchiha and the Senju clans who would fight each other non-stop for countless years. Of course other clans formed in these times, but two clans, sort of like branch families, broke off of these two clans. From the Uchiha it is believed the Hyuga clan came into being with their Byakugan, and from the Senju clan the Uzumaki clan came into being with their mastery of Fuinjutsu and barrier techniques. Spoke the Hokage, but he was quickly cut off by Shursui, who was shouting he was so surprised, and Itachi's eyes were huge. Wait a minute, are you saying that Naruto is related to the Senju clan? Asked Shursui with shock, volume, and confusion in his voice. The Hokage looked at him funny, but then he just shrugged his shoulders. I guess if you wanted to put it that way, the Uzumaki were kind of like a branch family in the Senju clan. For some reason certain members started to be born with red hair and unnatural talents in fields that the Senju hadn't been as skilled in. Soon they grew tired of being called Senju since their numbers had grown so large that they decided to become their own clan. They were also tired of all the fighting the Senju clan was involved in. They believed that the Senju and Uchiha fighting was pointless and that they should be allowed to live their lives the way they chose, so one day they packed up their things and left. They eventually founded Yuzushigakure, where they became a powerful village, but were still considered a minor village because of their small numbers. Unfortunately, they were all killed except for a small few and scattered to the far reaches of the elemental nations, spoke the Hokage with a sad tone in his voice. He was glad Mito had already been dead when Yuzushigakure was destroyed because he was sure that it would have killed her. Wow, who would have guessed Naruto had such an amazing family tree, spoke Shisui with a bright smile on his face, though the thought of him being related to those prick Hyuga made him feel sick. So what skills did the Uzumaki excel at, asked Itachi, trying to figure out what had made them so powerful that they needed to be exterminated. Those chakra chains were the first that came to mind. The Uzumaki were, and still are, the greatest fuinjutsu masters to ever live. They could do things with seals that nobody else ever could. It was like they could read them like a first language and then alter them to do with as they wished. This was a highly feared ability and was the main reason they were destroyed. They were also masters of barrier ninjutsu, kenjutsu, highly skilled with medical ninjutsu, and really anything physical for that matter, spoke the Hokage, remembering Mito and Kushina, who both seemed to have endless stamina and strength. This seemed to be a problem for their husbands because on more than one occasion Sarutobi had seen the drained looks on Hashirama and Minato's faces, while their wives were practically glowing, looking well-rested. So they were good with physical tasks, huh? I wonder if they were just born with high chakra reserves or if they just had strong bodies, spoke Itachi as he rubbed his chin. He wondered why he had never heard that much about the Uzumaki. If they were as important as he knew they were, then why were they not covered in academy? The only reason they knew that the swirl was Uzumaki was because it was mentioned that it was given to them by their allies in the Uzumaki clan. Well, Naruto has more chakra than he knows what to do with. The boy is an animal and just keeps on going. But I guess that is also because of his roommate, spoke Shisui, making sure not to break the Hokage's laws, a special right in front of him. He wasn't ready to die. Yes and no. All Uzumaki were born with high chakra reserves and were naturally strong in many physical aspects. While Naruto's chakra reserves have been expanded by his roommate, he would have gotten lots of powerful chakra anyway from his Uzumaki heritage, spoke the Hokage as he thought about Naruto's chakra. It was undoubtedly very powerful because of the mixing of his powerful Uzumaki chakra and the fox's chakra, but he wondered if maybe it caused an imbalance because neither Kushina nor Mito really used ninjutsu except for Kushina's chakra chains. I have been meaning to ask you this, Hokage-sama. What is Naruto's tailed beast skill? I know that people in his situation with other roommates have gained some powers from their roommate other than the chakra expansion. I know that the 4 tails give its user lava release, and that the 6 tails gives its user acid release. So what is Naruto's special ability, asked Itachi. He was surprised when the Hokage sighed and leaned back in his chair. Shisui looked excited because he had completely forgotten about that, but Itachi as nervous. Why was the Hokage reacting this way? Those who have housed the 9 tails have never once shown even the slightest hints that they had gotten some kind of power from it, spoke the Hokage, shocking Itachi and Shisui into silence. Finally, after a few minutes, Shisui started talking. What about his quick healing, his sharp senses, great reflexes, or any of the other weird things that Naruto just seems to oddly do, spoke Shisui, not getting how these things were not related to the fox. Naruto was great and all, but these were not bloodlines, just abnormalities. I don't know what to tell you other than they are Uzumaki things. They had great senses. They healed quickly and were great sensors. I wouldn't be surprised if you two figured out Naruto were a sensory ninja as well, spoke the Hokage as he took a sip of his coffee, not noticing the looks on Itachi and Shisui's faces. I thought all of the hosts got some kind of skill or power from their tenants. I just find it hard to believe that the 9 tails would be an exception, spoke Itachi, feeling he was missing something. He had never studied the tailed beast, but now he wished he had. That is not true actually. When a tailed beast is sealed inside of a person, that tailed beast will bestow a power on that person in order to keep them alive longer. If a person like Naruto were to die, then the bijou would die as well. They will reform, of course, but it takes time and I assume it is painful. The 9 tails is not the same as the other 8. It doesn't mind dying and actually hopes its host will die as soon as possible so it can get out and roam free once more. Because of this, it does not give its host a special ability, spoke the Hokage with an annoyed voice. The fox was so troublesome, that was for sure. It was the most powerful of the bijou, that was true, but that just meant he was the hardest to subdue. Then, of course, there were the very limited people who would be able to survive with the 9 tails sealed inside of them. Then the fox took every chance it got to kill said host. Of course, it wouldn't give the host any special abilities, and it would try its hardest to keep its host from taking its chakra unless it was trying to control them with it. Sometimes Sarutobi wished Hashirama had kept the 8 and 2 tails instead of just the 9 tails. Wow, spoke Shursui, though he did feel bad for Naruto not only having to be a Jinchuriki, but having to be one with a beast that wouldn't even give him a special ability. It had to suck. So I guess teaching Naruto how to use any tailed beast skill will be out of the question then. What about Kushina-sama's chakra chain ability? Couldn't we try and teach that to Naruto? Asked Itachi in a matter-of-fact type of way. He didn't want the Hokage knowing about Naruto's chakra chains, because then it would be labeled as a bloodline because Kushina had passed it on, and then Naruto would be forced to repopulate his clan. That would mean that Konoha would have plenty of potential vessels for when the Kyuubi went loose next time. Well, I guess nobody has really tried to use the technique, though some believed it to be a bloodline or just a unique ability since she could do it so naturally from such a young age. If Naruto can learn the technique, then it would be a big bonus because it is a very powerful technique. I have kept it safe ever since she died just in case Naruto unlocked the ability, spoke the Hokage as he used a special seal and some of his blood to cause a popping sound that caused a bunch of smoke. When the smoke cleared, the Hokage was holding a scroll in his hand that was a dark red color, with a small black string that looked like a miniature rope tied around it. Shursui stepped forward and took it, but the Hokage quickly gave him a warning. Be careful with that, Shursui. Kushina put some powerful seals on it to make sure that only Naruto would be able to open it. I don't know what will happen if you try and open it on your own, but I can only guess the result will be very nasty, spoke the Hokage as he took a big puff on his pipe. When Shursui had bowed his head, he nodded his own and let them go. XXX. Shursui and Itachi appeared inside of Naruto's bedroom and saw that he was still asleep. He had been training hard for a long time and they thought that it was about time he got some rest. But with this new scroll, they figured he would be happy they had woken him up early on his weekend. But seriously, that was a letdown. The Nine Tails is really being a pain in the ass, whispered Shursui as he walked into Naruto's kitchen and made himself a bowl of cereal and a glass of milk. He had bought Naruto's groceries, so he felt he was entitled to have some when he wanted. Indeed, but maybe the skill isn't superficial like the other ones. He may not have an elemental ability, but it is still possible for that he does have some power that the Nine Tails couldn't help but give. It isn't like the Hokage said he didn't have one. Just that if he did, they have never seen it, whispered Itachi as he copied Shursui and made himself some breakfast. The mild was nice and cold, making Itachi feel refreshed. Yeah, but even if he did, I would rather he learn to use those chakra chains of his. You remember how powerful they were when he first unlocked them, whispered Shursui as he put the scroll on the table. Itachi looked at it for a moment in thought before turning back to his breakfast. Yes, but I also remember nearly getting killed quite a few times as well, whispered Itachi as he took another big bit of his cereal. I don't think that he is ready to learn how to use them, whispered Itachi as he took a sip of milk. I think he is. He just finished mastering the fire release manipulation techniques, so he is going to be bugging us non-stop to teach him fire jutsu. I think this would be better since it isn't elemental, it is one of his natural abilities, and maybe he can use it to get the fox in line, whispered Shursui right before Itachi slammed his hands over his mouth to shut him up. He looked around for a moment expecting Anbu to rush into Naruto's apartment instantly. You idiot, what would you do if the Hokage found out you broke into his tower at night and stole secret files from his office? We would be tried as traitors and kills, whispered Itachi harshly. Honestly, Shursui was becoming more and more daring by the day. It was going to get himself killed and more than likely him as well. Don't worry, I didn't take the file. I just used my Sharingan to memorize what it said. I was in and out in 60 seconds flat, spoke Shursui with a wave of his hand like he was dismissing Itachi's worries as something trivial. Itachi shot him a venomous glare, but calmed down and decided to get the conversation back on track. I know Kushina was able to get some of the Nine Tails chakra, but she was only able to get a small bit. She didn't have the power or the will to take any more than that, spoke Itachi as he ate some more of his cereal. Being in the ANBU really privileged you to restricted information. Yeah, apparently she claimed that she didn't have enough love in her heart. The Nine Tails was able to beat her will down by telling her that she was a power-hungry woman who only wanted power because she couldn't protect her clan. He played on her insecurities and made her feel ashamed and worthless all at the same time. Without the will, she quickly folded and the Nine Tails was able to keep its power, whispered Shursui as he finished up his cereal. He drank down all of the milk and put his dishes in the sink for cleaning. Naruto could do that. So the fox was able to figure out what hurt her the most and then played upon it. Maybe when it is inside of the seal it can see into its host's memories or even see through the host's eyes, whispered Itachi as he did the same as Shursui, although he washed his bowl and cup and Shursui's before sitting down. Or the fox can see into people's hearts and see what plagues them the most, whispered Shisui as he cleared his teeth with his tongue. Itachi shook his head but did give Shisui's idea a chance. Mug, came a voice from the other room. They heard a loud crashing sound and some yelling and just sweat dropped. It seemed that Naruto had rolled off of the bed again and hit his head on the nightstand. That boy is going to have brain damage, spoke Shisui as he started laughing at Naruto's plight. He wouldn't be the only one, spoke Itachi as he looked at Shisui like he was an idiot. When Naruto came out of his room, he was only wearing his ninja pants. He had been able to gain a bit of muscle these past 6 months with the right nutrition and exercise. Morning, spoke Shisui as he saw Naruto's clouded eyes start to clear, though the Byakugan would always be that milky white color, and looked surprised when he saw them. Hey, what are you two doing in my house? Asked Naruto as he sat down beside them and made himself some cereal. He noticed that it was much lighter as was the mild, but he didn't complain at all. We came to get you for training, duh. You mastered the final stage in fire release yesterday, so we figured we would teach you a few jutsu, and then teach you a really powerful technique, spoke Shisui, giving Itachi a subtly wink that let him know that they would have to do this first before moving on to the chakra chains. Itachi nodded his head, knowing what he was doing, and knew that Naruto wouldn't be able to focus if they hadn't agreed to let him learn a few fire jutsu. Hell ya! Shouted Naruto as he jumped up and did the happy dance, only to be knocked upside the head by Shisui. I told you no more happy dance. It isn't cool and you only make yourself look weak, spoke Shisui, who couldn't believe his student/brother figure would do something like that. Okay, no happy dance. But let's hurry up and go outside. I want to learn these jutsu as fast as possible, shouted Naruto as he grabbed hold of Shisui's arm, already knowing he was the one who was going to take him to the training ground. Training grounds. When they came out of the training ground, Naruto noticed that they were not in the forest like they usually trained. Now they looked like they were in a desert or something, but when Naruto looked over and saw how close he was to the clouds, he realized he was on a high plateau, not in a desert or a really rocky dry place. You like what you see? Asked Shisui as he walked over to the other side of the field and picked up a lot of training dummies that looked like they had been liquefied and then cooled quickly to give them a unique look. These are what people usually learn to use fire release jutsu. They are made from a special metal that is able to stay cool in even the hottest fires. But as you can see, there have been some Uchiha who have been able to take fire release so far that they can even melt them. This is what I will teach you to use fire jutsu on, spoke Shisui as he walked back towards Naruto. I won't be able to do it, will I? I don't have a fire release affinity, so I will never be able to create fire as hot as you can, spoke Naruto with a depressed voice as he crouched down and started to draw little circles in the ground as storm clouds formed over his head. It isn't how powerful your jutsu is, it is about how you use it. A genin could kill a Kage if given the right situation, spoke Itachi as he walked from behind a large boulder over to Naruto and Shisui. Naruto looked up and saw Shisui nodding his head, which made Naruto smile. Now we will be teaching you some basic jutsu, so you can get used to using them. You don't need to know how to use big flashy jutsu, just how to make the most of low-level jutsu, spoke Shisui as he started going through hand signs. Fire style. Great fireball jutsu, shouted Shisui as a giant fireball shot out of his mouth and hurtled towards the training dummies. It hit about 6 of them, but the other 6 were untouched. You see, Naruto? Just because your jutsu is powerful doesn't make it the best choice, spoke Itachi as he started to go through hand signs. Fire release. Phoenix Sage fire technique, shouted Itachi as he blew out 12 smaller fireballs that flew through the air and turned in the air before maneuvering towards their targets. All 12 of the fireballs hit their targets in lethal places. Wow, Itachi, you got all of them, shouted Naruto as he watched Itachi and Shisui showing all of these amazing jutsu to him. Do you want to learn these 2 jutsu? Asked Shisui, looking Naruto like he was surprised. He was glad Naruto's Byakugan wasn't active right now, or he would have been able to tell he was lying by his chakra. Yeah, shouted Naruto as he couldn't wait to learn them. Really? We had other jutsu in mind to teach you. But if you want to learn these 2, then I guess I am okay with it, spoke Itachi in his usual stoic tone that made Naruto nod his head so fast Shisui was worried his neck would snap. Alright, activate your Byakugan so that you can see what we are doing with our chakra, spoke Shisui as he used his jutsu. Itachi soon followed after and the dummies were all on the ground by now. When they looked back, they saw Naruto had closed his left eye, but he had a weird look on his face. What is the matter, Naruto? Asked Itachi, seeing the look and not getting why the boy looked confused. It was possible, though, that he wasn't used to seeing chakra formed like that, though. When you guys use your fire jutsu, the chakra in your eyes starts to light up a bit. Itachi's does it, but not like Shirsue's does. It is like the chakra thinks that the eye needs it or something, spoke Naruto, causing both Itachi and Shirsue to freeze up. They had never heard of something happening like that. Well, that is interesting, Naruto. Maybe we should try and figure it out after you get done learning the jutsu we have in mind for you, spoke Shirsue, making sure he didn't lie. He was sure he could fool the Byakugan since controlling one's chakra so that it didn't fluxgate when lying was possible, but it was extremely difficult at times, especially when you get shocked. Okay, spoke Naruto as he started to go through his hand signs and then blew out some chakra. A small ball of fire came out, but it only made it about 15 feet before disappearing. Naruto shook his head and started to try and again. What Naruto didn't know was that Shirsue and Itachi were having a conversation by using their eyes. Did you know that happened when you used your chakra? Asked Itachi as he felt his pulse race. No, I have never felt it happen before, spoke Shirsue, believing he knew why his eyes lit up more than Itachi's did. We will have to figure out more about this, but later, spoke Itachi as he started to think a million miles an hour. Agreed, spoke Shirsue as he looked away from Itachi and back at Naruto, whose fireball was continuously getting bigger, hotter, and further with each try. Alright Naruto, you keep that up and you might have it down pat by the end of the day, shouted Shirsue from the sidelines, knowing how much Naruto loved positive reinforcement. Naruto's cheeks turned red as he went through the hand signs for his jutsu before shouting out, "Fire style! Great fireball jutsu!" and a giant ball of fire rushed from his mouth and hit two of the dummies. Good job, Naruto. Just keep an eye on your chakra reserves. I would have for you to suffer though chakra exaction, spoke Shirsue as he laughed on the inside at the thought of Naruto suffering from chakra exaction. That would be a sight to see. Over the next year and 6 months, Shirsue and Itachi taught Naruto as often as they could. Shirsue was more interested in teaching Naruto the physical aspect of being a shinobi, while Itachi taught Naruto how to think like a real ninja. Naruto was very good when it came to survival training, but that might have been because he didn't complain like other kids who were used to soft beds and warm meals every night, unlike Naruto. They slowly taught Naruto about his clan and their abilities while slipping in things that would help him. He was really interested in his healing ability since he had always attributed it to why he was so unliked. They had informed him that he was wrong and that it was actually a unique ability of the Uzumaki clan, along with long life and powerful healing. Shirsue found out something very interesting about Naruto one day when he accidentally stabbed himself in the hand with a kunai. Naruto and him had been fighting, but Shirsue had beaten him around like a rag doll, but then Naruto bit him. To Shirsue's amazement, he could feel Naruto's chakra enter his body and heal his body. It seemed this made Naruto tired though, as he had droopy eyes after that. They experimented with this ability and found that there wasn't much Naruto couldn't heal. They also found out that he could transfer great amounts of chakra that way. That was fun and all, but soon they moved on to training in other fields. Just like the Hokage said, Naruto caught on to Fuinjutsu with ease and his Shurikenjutsu training moved along swimmingly. Naruto wasn't a bookworm by any standards, and after class he didn't even want to look at a book. But Itachi was patient and helped Naruto learn to learn. It was an odd way of putting it, but that was the best way to put it. Shirsue made sure Naruto was physically fit, which was easy to do, but he attributed this to his Uzumaki body. He had to teach him more fire jutsu because Naruto would just eat them up like candy, but he was able to hold him off and teach him other things. It turned out that Naruto had almost no skills with Genjutsu. Even though he had good chakra control, the chakra control needed to create Genjutsu on any decent level still escaped him, so they focused on breaking out of Genjutsu even without his Byakugan. On the other hand, Naruto showed amazing potential for Taijutsu. His natural reflexes and strong body made the Uchiha Interceptor fist perfect for him. He wasn't a master of it, and he didn't have the strength or speed to make it truly effective against the stronger opponents, but he was getting the stances down quickly. The Byakugan was a heaven send in this regard. With its nearly 360-degree vision, it allowed Naruto to cover almost all of his blind spots, and since it could see fast movement like the Sharingan, he could also use it to reverse or counter his enemy's attacks. The Byakugan had been the main reason the Hokage had let 2 of his best ANBU train Naruto, so they had to work on it as well, even though it was like taking a shot in the dark. Naruto learned to extend his vision a bit and how to focus it to see a fair deal away, but other than that and learning how to turn it on and off at will, Naruto was still not very advanced with it. They did try and teach him barrier ninjutsu and other things, but he already had so much on his plate that it was amazing that he had been able to get as far as he had. If he hadn't had to go to the academy and they didn't need to work, then they would have been able to train him even more. Naruto was already in a lot of trouble with the academy for skipping so much school. The Hokage had covered him on that front so they couldn't do anything. But the Uchiha clan was getting tired of Shisui and Itachi shrugging off their responsibilities, though they hadn't done anything about it yet. By far the best part of the last 2 years had been his birthdays. He had always been alone on his birthday or just didn't know that they had passed. But the last 2 had been awesome. Shisui had made him a cake. Itachi performed a few tricks with his fire release. The Hokage showed up and talked with him a bit. And they even gave him presents, something Naruto had only gotten from the Hokage before. It truly was the best time in his life and it felt like they were a real family. But even that was to come to an end. Present time. Naruto was about to start undressing when Itachi showed up in his room. He looked over at his teacher and friend and saw the pained look in his eyes. Naruto didn't get what had caused Itachi to look that way, but he was sure he wouldn't like it. "Naruto, I need you to come with me," spoke Itachi as he stuck out his hand. "Why?" Naruto, a little afraid, asked Itachi, who was acting weird. "Shisui is in trouble," was all Itachi said, and instantly Naruto was holding onto his arm with a firm grip. "Let's go," spoke Naruto with worry in his voice right before he and Itachi disappeared in burst of fire. My Eyes Chapter 6. Itachi and Naruto appeared on the side of a ravine that had a powerful river at the bottom of it. It was dark and the trees behind them looked like monsters could live inside of them. For some reason the end pieces of the ravine had now plant life growing on it, but that wasn't what Naruto was looking at. Standing on the ledge of the ravine was Shisui. "Shisui," shouted Naruto as he ran towards Shisui, who turned around to look at Naruto. He smiled the big dopey smile that he always did, but now his left eye was closed and it looked like a trail of blood was running down it. "Hey Naruto-kun, I am glad you could make it," spoke Shisui, as he pulled Naruto into a deep hug as some real tears started to fall from his left eye. He hated that he was going to have to leave Naruto like this when he needed him most. "What happened to your eye? It is bleeding. Do you want me to heal you?" asked Naruto, showing his elongated teeth. Shisui smiled, but shook his head no. Naruto didn't get it, but when Shisui opened his right eye only to reveal he had no right eye, Naruto felt sick. You could say a bad man took a shine to it and wanted it for himself. I was already in trouble, so I couldn't show him who was boss. But hey, at least I made it out of there with the eye that was most important. "What are you talking about, Shisui and I? We can just go tell the Hokage and he will fix it," spoke Naruto, not understanding why Shisui was just going to let this man take his eye. Naruto did notice that the eye that Shisui did still have was in an odd design instead of the regular Sharingan that he had always seen. "I am sorry, Naruto, but right now the internal powers of Konoha are at war and the Hokage has to worry about that. Not about me. The village is already in bad shape and I don't want you to get dragged into it," spoke Shisui, as he stood up and looked over at Itachi and nodded his head. "What are you talking about, Shisui and I? The Hokage is the greatest. He could help you," spoke Naruto, trying to get Shisui to go see the Hokage, who had always been so nice to him. He knew he could help, so why not ask? "I am sorry, Naruto, I really am. I never wanted any of this to happen and tried to do everything in my power to stop it," spoke Shisui, as for the first time in Naruto's life did he see the sad look on Shisui's face. It nearly broke his heart and he didn't know why. He could feel something bad about to happen though. "What are you talking about, Shisui?" asked Naruto, feeling his heart clench up. Shisui's eye watered a bit, but he closed it and whipped it, trying not to look weak in front of Naruto. He couldn't show weakness, he had to be the stone or Naruto would suffer. "Naruto, I have to go away for a long time, and we will probably never see one another ever again. That is why I want you to have my eye. I want to always be there by your side. I want to help you through the difficulties of this world in any way that I can. That is why I want you to have my eye," spoke Shisui as he reached up and stuck his finger in his eye. Without medical ninjutsu or anything else, he removed his eye and didn't even flinch. Naruto didn't want to be alone. He always wanted to be with Shisui, as well as Itachi and the Hokage. He wanted their little family to be able to stand the test of time and make this black world into something warmer and brighter. His heart felt like it would break in his chest, but something told him that this was important and that he had to grant Shisui his last request. Naruto reached up and stuck his finger in his left eye. Itachi looked like he was about to run forward, but Naruto stopped him with one look. Itachi stopped and nodded his head so that he could continue. Slowly, he felt his fingernails cutting through the muscles that held his eye in place and moved it. When that was out of the way, his fingers came to the cord that connected the brain and the eye and severed it with his fingernails. The pain was indescribably and Naruto wanted to quit instantly, but he kept powering through and eventually he held his blue eye in his left hand. He placed it in Shirsue's outstretched right hand and took Shirsue's eye out of his left hand. He stuck the eye inside of his eye socket and used a little bit of medical ninjutsu that he had been able to learn in combination with his fast healing. Naruto felt like his legs were going to give out from underneath him and that the left side of his face was on fire and his skull was being crushed by a sledgehammer. All the nerves in his body were sending various messages to his brain describing the pain he had just felt. Right before he passed out, he heard Shirsue start talking. "I will always be with you to protect you, little brother. I love you," was all Shirsue said before he walked over to the side of the cliff and jumped off. Naruto still had his Byakugan activated and watched as Shirsue used some kind of suicide jutsu that turned the chakra in the body into blue fire that engulfed his body and turned him into ashes before he even hit the water. After that, what little ashes were left were swept down the river towards the ocean. Naruto wanted to scream, to cry, but he couldn't. All he could do was pass out from the physical and emotional pain that he was feeling, and soon he was on the ground with a trail of bloody tears running down his face. He didn't see the tears running down Itachi's face or how his Sharingan morphed into the Manjikyu Sharingan before he fell to his knees crying. When he finally had gotten himself together, he steeled his nerves and grabbed Naruto before taking him back to his own home. Nobody could know of what happened tonight. The next morning, when Naruto woke up, he felt an odd sense of déjà vu. When he tried to open his right eye, he felt the seal on it act up and keep his eyelid shut. When he tried to open his left eye, he felt a searing pain rush through his body. He sent chakra to both of his eyes at once and got different results. His right eye opened up while the pain in his left eye nearly left him doubled over in pain. "What the hell is going on?" spoke Naruto as he got up. When he did this, 4 scrolls rolled off of his chest. 1 fell onto the ground, 1 stayed beside him, and the last 2 rolled to his feet. "What are these?" spoke Naruto as he examined the scrolls. 1 was a deep red color with a braided rope thing around it. The other 3 were the usual gray color with the black center. On the backs of all of them they were labeled. The red one said, "You will know when the time is right." The one that fell on the floor was labeled last, and the one at his feet was labeled first and second to last. Naruto shrugged his shoulders and opened the first one up to see what it said. It was a letter from Shirsue which made him tear up instantly. "Dear little brother, I know you are probably really sad right now and are angry with me. I don't blame you, as I would be too. But just hear what I have to say. Konoha is in danger from itself. Certain factions are fighting over control, and it is possible that you could get involved. As you know, last night I gave you my Sharingan. I remember you joking around about me giving it to you so you would have a fire release affinity. I believe I figured out the reason you adapted so well to your Byakugan, and I believe it is your Uzumaki blood at work. I figured out a way to remove the chakra that would have kept my Sharingan eye active once implanted into you, so that it would revert to its initial stage. I know you are mad that you won't get to have my awesome eyes power right off the bat, but like everything else you will need to work for it. I am hoping that I am right and that you will be able to adapt to the foreign organ like you did to the Byakugan, but if not, then you will have to do it like the other guy who had a Sharingan eye implanted into his head. I am sorry about leaving you, Naruto, I really am. But the forces that be will not leave me alone, and I fear they may try to use me to get to you. I hate to have to be the one to tell you this, and even more so in this manner, but I know the reason you are so hated. The Hokage made laws, punishable by death, to stop people from even speak of it, but since I am already dead, there isn't much he can do about it. Naruto, 8 years ago, the great 9-tailed fox attacked our village for reasons unknown. It is believed that a one-eyed Uchiha had somehow subdued the beast with his eyes, but there is nothing that we can prove out it. Naruto, you cannot kill a Bijou. They are chakra constructs with no souls, so even if they die, they will simply reform after a while and go back on a rampage. The 4th Hokage knew this, so instead of trying to kill it, he decided to seal it into a newborn baby that was strong enough to survive. That baby unfortunately was you, Naruto, and now the 9 tails is sealed inside of you until the day you die. Now before that overactive imagination gets any funny ideas, you are not the 9-tailed fox in human form. That is something only the ignorant believe, but the fox is trapped inside of you. It is one of the reasons your chakra reserves are so high. Unfortunately, sealing Bijou into people isn't just to keep the villages and countries safe. All of the major villages do this in order to create living weapons. You see, Naruto, it is the goal of the village, while sealing these Bijou into people, to turn them into weapons for their village that can harness the power of the tailed beast inside of them and then use it against anyone who gets in their way. The Hokage is entirely against the idea, but there are many who wish for him to reconsider. The Hokage is old, Naruto. He won't live forever, and sooner or later he will die. I don't want you to be caught unawares when this happens and people are trying to capture you. If they do capture you, they will strip you of emotions, put you though in human training designed to force you to learn to control the beast's power, and then use you as a weapon of mass destruction. Then after they are through with you, they will rip the 9 tails from your body and seal it into another Uzumaki if they can find one, or if they cannot, they will force you to bear a child that will have strong Uzumaki blood that they can seal the 9 tails into and then repeat the process again and again and again. You see, Naruto, only an Uzumaki has a body strong enough with enough life force to house the 9 tails and not die. I want you to do as you want, Naruto. You could stay and maybe you could change everyone's minds about you, but if you can't, then the problems that will befall you and your descendants will be horrible. If you choose to leave, then I support you 100%. I lived and died for my village, willingly sacrificing my own life so that they could prosper, but I won't sacrifice my little brother. I love you more than this village any day, and I just want what is best for you. From your loving brother, Shisui the Noble. Naruto wanted to cry so much, but the pain and the feelings inside of him wouldn't let him. He took a deep breath to calm his nerves and looked at the scroll that said, "Second," on the back of it. When he unrolled it, he realized it was a message from Itachi. Dear Naruto, I don't know what Shisui wrote to you, but I can venture to guess. I would imagine you know about being the Jinchuriki of the 9-tailed fox, and that Shisui may have encouraged you to leave. I cannot encourage you to leave. I am still alive and am still a loyal member of the Hidden Leaf Village. With that being said, if you were to leave, then I would have been grieving for my lost friend and would not have known that you were even gone. As you also know, there were 4 scrolls on your bed when you woke up. They were labeled in the order in which you should read them. Do not open up the scroll that says last until you have read this entire message. Now, Naruto, the red scroll is actually very special. It is a scroll that your mother wrote when she described how she learned to use her chakra chain abilities, which she believed were part of a new bloodline of sorts. With your emergence of the chakra chains, it became official that it is in fact a bloodline. You should keep this a close secret and tell only those you trust with your life, because if the other villages find out you have a new bloodline, then they will send the best. They have to capture you and persuade you to join their village and create a clan there. It is also very smart to have powerful abilities that are hidden from all, as to have an ace in the hole when things get tough. Naruto, if you wish to leave the village, then that is what you should do. If you want to stay, then stay, but I will tell you this, the number of people in the higher-ups that want you dead or a weapon far outmatch the ones who want you happy and free. If you do decide to leave the village, open up the scroll that says "Fourth" and run as fast as you can. It should provide ample distraction, and if everything goes right, nobody will come looking for you. I would suggest you make your decision in 1 week's time, on the night of the full moon. On that night, you will have plenty of time to get away and plenty enough of a distraction. Naruto, I see you as a little brother. I know that I am not like Shisui and that I am not all fun and laughs, but you still mean much to me. From your older brother Itachi. Naruto smiled as a tear slid down his Byakugan eye and a blood tear slid down his Sharingan eye. Itachi loved him like a brother as well. He finally had the family he always wanted, but now it was being torn apart. The world really was a cruel place. Naruto looked at the 2 last scrolls and put the one that said "Fourth" on the table in the kitchen, while he opened up the red scroll and watched it slide open. Soon words started to form inside of the scroll, which surprised Naruto. Dear Uzumaki, my name is Kushina Uzumaki, and this scroll was meant for my son Naruto Uzumaki. If another Uzumaki is reading this, then it is pointless, because I made sure that only those with my powers can read past the introduction in this scroll. Now with that done, if this is my little Naruchan, then I want to tell you how happy I am that you have my powers, though if you are reading this and I am not telling it to you, then that means that I am dead, which is kind of a bummer. Anyways, I made this scroll describing the powers that I learned that I had as a small girl in Yuzu, in case another gained the same powers or if my descendants gained these powers. I hope that it is the later, because I am sure that my son, or heaven forbid grandson, has to become the Jinchuriki of the 9 tails. The reason I want it to become a clan bloodline is that with a clan you would be able to better protect the child that was turned into a Jinchuriki. I was lucky since my status as the 9 tails Jinchuriki was kept a secret, but I learned that this was not the case in other villages. In other villages, Jinchuriki are hated, feared, and treated as subhuman at best. I don't want this to happen to my family, so I hope that they can at least defend themselves should it happen. If this is my little Naruchan, then I am sorry for whatever happened. I only wanted you to be loved and adored like you should have, but if I died early or something else, then that I probably wasn't around long enough to show you just how much I love you. With that said, I am sorry that you will not be able to learn everything inside of this scroll right off the bat. There are many things you can do with this bloodline, and you will have to start at the bottom and work your way up. The faster you master these abilities, the faster the scroll will reveal more of our power. Love Kushina Uzumaki, the happiest mother ever. Naruto smiled and held the scroll to his heart. His mother did love him. So many people had said that he was a bastard child and that his parents had abandoned him in the streets because they didn't love him, but this right here was proof that they did love him. His mother was also a Jinchuriki like him, and it made him feel a special connection with her. Soon though, Naruto started to read what his mother had written down. It was very informative and described in great detail how she had been able to learn how to control her chakra chains. Naruto read the basics of what she could do and thought that it was amazing, wishing she had shown him even more. In the Hokage's office, the Hokage was rubbing his temples, feeling so guilty about what had been happening recently. He knew he wouldn't see Naruto for a while after it was discovered that Shisui had been murdered. He had gone to his house and the door had been locked. He tried to talk to Naruto, but the boy just kept his eyes shut and rested his head against his knees. He would need to try again, but maybe he should give him some time. Itachi looked horrible as well. His face was paler than usual, taking on a sickly look, and his black eyes seemed to have faded a bit. His hair that was almost always perfectly straight and in a ponytail was now frayed a bit and was sticking out in different directions. From what the Hokage guessed was a lack of sleep and lots of crying. "How is he?" asked the Hokage. His voice was cracked and his eyes were looking out the window with a sad look. His throat felt like it was constricting when he talked about Naruto. He is in denial. He feels that if he keeps his eyes closed that Shisui will pop out of nowhere and tell him it had all been a joke. "I would give it some time for Naruto to realize that Shisui is really gone," spoke Itachi. But not even he could keep the pain out of his voice. The Hokage nodded his head, feeling sorry. "There isn't anything we can do for him until realizes Shisui is gone. We need to wait it out and be there for him when he finally breaks down," spoke the Hokage as a tear slid down his old face. He hadn't cried since his wife died. Now he wished he could finally die. "Of course, Hokage-sama," spoke Itachi as he rushed off to busy himself with mind-numbing work so that he wouldn't have to think about any of this. 1 week later, Naruto looked out the window of his apartment and saw the full moon hanging directly overhead. It was midnight and the time was just right. He had already sealed up all of the things that he knew he would need and was now looking at the scroll that read for. Naruto reached forward and took the scroll in his hand and slowly opened it up. With a puff of smoke that blinded Naruto, a thud sound could be heard. When Naruto looked down, he saw a monkey about the same size as him, completely covered in exploding tags. Naruto went to say something, but then the symbol for 10 formed on all of the explosive tags that then counted down to 9. "Damn it, Itachi," shouted Naruto as he jumped out of his apartment window and landed on the roof opposing it and started running as fast as he could, making sure to not be seen by members of the ANBU who were patrolling the aisle. 8 seconds later, a giant explosion rocked Naruto's apartment, sending pieces of the building high up into the air with fire and smoke covering the rest of the apartment. Naruto could hear shouting and see members of the ANBU as well as other ninja running towards the explosion. Naruto smirked and jumped down into a dirty alleyway that had trash and other things in it, but no people. He started to run down the alleyways, making sure to avoid all humans. He kept close to the walls, making sure to pair around them in case there were other people. He wasn't skilled enough with his sensory abilities to use it while he was so stressed, and if his Byakugan was active and someone did see him, then they would have reported it instantly. He hid anywhere he could, from food stands, stores, roofs, walls, shadows, and all kinds of other places until he came to the entrance of the village. The 2 guards were still there, but they were looking off into the distance where the fire in Naruto's apartment was raging. Naruto cursed silently, thinking of some way he could get away without being seen. He looked around and then got a good idea. With a puff of smoke, Naruto was looking like a member of the ANBU. He quickly jumped up on the room and looked down. They were still in shock, so Naruto's plan was still possible. When Naruto landed in front of them, they looked shocked and quickly got into defensive positions. Naruto slowly stood up, getting used to the added height, and hoped his special henge was working correctly. "You two are to report to the Hokage for an investigation. We believe enemy ninja have broken into the village and killed one of our own. The Hokage wants you two to report to him immediately to see if you let him in," spoke Naruto, whose voice was altered by the special henge that he had invented a long time ago. "What? That is ridiculous. There is no way we would let anyone inside the village," spoke one of them with a bandage across his face and spiky black hair. "Are you resisting?" asked Naruto as he slowly reached for his kunai. The 2 Chunin seemed shocked and quickly held out their hands. "No sir, we will go immediately," spoke the other man as they both took off towards the Hokage tower. Once they were out of sight, Naruto turned around and left the village. Naruto ran like the devil was on his heels. The village was the only thing that he knew, but he was very knowledgeable when it came to the forest. Naruto ran down a dark trail that Shisui used to tell him about that was used as a small trade route towards Konoha from the small counties. Felt nice really. Even though he was betting his life on this move, the cool breeze rushing along his body and the beautiful night sky was enough to make him feel this was the right decision. He hoped Shisui was looking out for him in heaven because he knew he would need all the help he could get. XXX. The Hokage and the village was in a state of panic. Half the villagers thought they were being invaded while the other half thought that they were fighting one another. In all honesty, the Hokage was having a hard time processing anything as he looked down from his tower at the burning remains that used to be Naruto's apartment. When it had exploded, tears rushed down the old man's face and his heart broke a bit. Because of this, the ninja had found out about Itachi slaying his clan much faster than they would have, so now everyone was looking for Itachi and others were trying to put out the fires in Naruto's apartment, while others were trying to get the civilians under control. "Hokage-sama, your orders," spoke an Anbu as he landed beside the Hokage. "Take a team and go search for Itachi. Have another team try and put out the fire and search for the remains of Naruto Uzumaki and any traces of foul play. Have a team clean up the Uchiha compound and bring Sasuke to the hospital for treatment," spoke the Hokage in a hollow voice that sounded so distant to him and others. The Hokage wanted to cry, to break down, but he had to stay strong. He would have to name a successor soon, but before that he would need to get everything in order. "I will need to keep the council in check, and then I can mourn," thought the Hokage as he left to go deal with another disaster. The next day, Naruto yawned a bit and cracked his eyes open. The sun started to filter through his eyes, which caused him to close them again. His back was a little stiff and he could feel bark being pressed up against him. Naruto slowly was able to open his eyes and look around him. He was laying on the side of a small road that he had ran alongside all night until he finally became too tired to go on. His stomach started to rumble and he pulled out some berries that he had collected last night. As Naruto was eating, he heard someone coming. His first reaction was to run and hid, but using the Byakugan, Naruto was able to see afar enough to make out an old man with a scraggly gray beard with hair that was the same color. He was wearing a straw hat with blue overalls. He was riding a wagon being pulled by 2 horses. Eventually he pulled up alongside Naruto and looked down at him. "Hello, young man. What are you doing?" asked the kind old man as he looked down on Naruto. The boy couldn't have been any older than 8, so what was he doing in a deep section of Fire Country's forests? "I am wandering around really," spoke Naruto as he stretched out and stood up. He didn't really have anywhere unparticular he wanted to go, just away from Konoha, so he was kinda stuck in a sense. "A little young, aren't you?" asked the old man, who seemed to be fixated on his age. Naruto didn't get why he was worried about him, but it seemed that he didn't hate him for some reason. "I live an alternative lifestyle," spoke Naruto with a shrug of the shoulders. He dusted himself off before turning around and grabbing his things. "Going anywhere unparticular?" asked the old man as he looked down at the boy. "Nah, just wandering around," spoke Naruto as he looked east and then west. The old man had come from the east, but that looked like it would take him much closer to Konoha than he wanted to go. "Well, I am going to grass country if you wish to catch a ride," spoke the old man as he pointed to the back of his wagon. It was full of what looked like salt bags. The man must have been a salt merchant, but Naruto had figured him for a farmer. Sometimes people were just weird. "So where are you from?" asked Naruto as he sat on one of the bags of salt. It was somewhat comfortable, at least at first, but he was sure it would harden and his butt would fall asleep after a while. "I am from the land of birds, and you?" asked the old man as he ushered the horses onwards. "I am from Yuzushiogakure," spoke Naruto, which made the man look at him funny. "I have lived for a while and have never heard of a place like that," spoke the man as they rode down the road. "Maybe one day you will, just as soon as I fix it," spoke Naruto as he looked up at the sky with a smile on his face as the warm rays landed on his skin. The old man looked at him for a bit, but then shrugged his shoulders and went back to talking about his travels and the things that he had seen. My Eyes, Chapter 7. For the past week, Naruto had been riding with the old man, hearing all about the places he had been and found that he had lived a very interesting life. He described some of the major countries like the land of fire and lighting, but said that he had avoided the land of water because of their civil war, the land wind because he didn't like the endless sand, the land of earth because the terrain made it difficult for his 2 horses to travel on. His favorite places were the smaller countries because their culture was more pronounced and not spread out like it seemed was the case in other countries. His favorite places were the island nations off the coast of the land of fire and water because they were always so much different than the places on the mainland. The old man had been going to a place called the Land of Grass, which was one of the small nations in between the larger nations. He said that it was the spot of some major battles between Iwa and Konoha. He told him they were the ninja villages of the resected countries. Naruto wanted to tell him that he already knew, but that wasn't the discrete image he was looking for. "Trust me, if you haven't ever been to the Land of Grass, then it will shock you," spoke the man as they entered a large forest with not much land vegetation besides the grass. "Look, old man, I told you I have seen plenty of big trees in my life," spoke Naruto, getting tired of the old man going on and on about the weird plants that were in the Land of Grass. He said he would be shocked out of his mind, but Naruto didn't believe him. "Oh, so you have seen something like that then?" spoke the old man with a smile as he pointed up at what had to be the largest mushroom on the planet. The trees were also weird. They had what looked like octagon-shaped pieces of bark on their trunks that seemed to fit together like a puzzle. "Wow! I take back what I said before. That is so cool," spoke Naruto as he jumped out of the cart and ran up to the base of the tree and started looking at the giant mushroom all over. It grew out of the tree and then it arched upwards. It had what looked like some kind of filter under the head of the mushroom. The head was a faded brown color with the trunk of the mushroom being a light gray color. "That is awesome. What are they called?" asked Naruto as he continued to examine the mushroom. "Tree penises," spoke the old man, which caused Naruto to jump back. It seemed that Naruto got what the old man said, which caused the old man to start laughing his butt off. Naruto was sitting on the ground and looked up at the mushroom. It was true, it was right in the middle of the tree and it arched up just like a tree with an erection. "This place is gross," spoke Naruto, which only seemed to cause the old man to laugh even harder. Eventually Naruto got back on the wagon, but the old man just couldn't quite making dirty jokes about the giant mushroom. "I can't believe there is something like that out here," spoke Naruto as he shivered a bit. He felt bad for the people around here who had to look at that thing every time they passed it. If it was him, he would have destroyed it a long time ago. "Trust me, my boy, that is not the only one," spoke the man, causing Naruto to look disgusted. The man kept on laughing, have a great time. Just like the old man had said, it wasn't the only one. The deeper they went into the forest, the more penis mushrooms started to appear. Soon there was so many penis mushrooms there were actually 2 or even 3 giant penis mushrooms on one single tree. "I hate this place," spoke Naruto as he continued to look around. As Naruto was looking around, he felt like he was being watched. He quickly wrapped the right side of his face with a piece of cloth that Itachi had given him. Byakugan, thought Naruto, instantly increasing his vision. There wasn't anyone in his 50-meter surround vision, but when Naruto looked over where he felt he was being watched from, he saw that there was 2 ninja hiding behind a tree. "Shit, what is going on?" wondered Naruto as he started to stand up. But then they were surrounded by the 2 ninja on both sides when they used the body flicker technique to get to them instantly. "Stop right there, old man," shouted one ninja. His face was hidden behind a scarf, leaving only his robe that hung down from his shoulders with a forehead protector that was thankfully not from Konoha. The symbol looked like a sharp 3 pointed at him, though Naruto had never seen it before. The man himself was average height for an adult with short brown hair that hung underneath his head cap. He wore a gray-colored overcoat with a black shirt underneath and some pants that resembled the ANBU. His build was average and his eyes were small black beads that had a nasty look in them. "Don't move, kid, if you know what is good for you," spoke the other man with a grin on his face, showing his straight white teeth. He looked confident in whatever it is he thought he was going to do. He had a skull cap-like thing as well with the same forehead protector symbol on it as the first guy. He wore black glasses that looked like they were for swimmers, and he had a mutton chop going on strong. His hair was a shiny dark black color in both his hair and beard, and he had a nice tan as well. Oddly, he wore a scarf just like the first guy, same design as well. "What is going on here?" asked the old man as he stood up to look at the 2 ninja who had stopped them. The old man had said that there was a ninja village in the Land of Grass called Kusagakure, but he hadn't expected to see them. "We are here to take what you got and then send your head to our employer. Nothing personal, just business," spoke the second man as he charged towards the old man with a kunai in hand. He wasn't expecting a foot to come out of his peripheral vision and smash him in the face. "Damn it, you broke my nose," shouted the man as he fell to the ground holding his nose. He quickly got over it though and stood up looking murderous. He snapped his nose back in place though he looked to be in pain and pulled out another kunai as he had dropped his other one. I was going to let you live, you little brat. But now I am going to enjoy killing you, spoke Midori, as he ran at Naruto with Chunin-level speeds. He was shocked when the kid blocked his kunai with one of his own. I am not as weak as you think I am, spoke Naruto as he pushed the man off of him and did a back flip, only to duck immediately as the other ninja named Shiba tried to slash him across the back with a kunai. Naruto rolled over to the base of a tree and looked at the two opposing ninja. They obviously had worked together before, as their teamwork was pretty good, and there was two of them, which put Naruto at a disadvantage. They were bigger than him and obviously were more experienced as well. They kid is pretty good, he has obviously had some good training before, but he is still a kid, and will die just like any other brat, spoke Shiba as he started to go through hand signs. When he was done, he shouted out, "Earth release." Tearing earth, turning palm, before slamming his hands onto the ground. Naruto was shocked when the ground around them started to break up and then cave in on itself. Naruto had to keep on jumping from different pieces of the ground that was being destroyed all around him by the earth jutsu. Naruto had never been happier that he had the Byakugan than now. Eventually Naruto jumped out of the jutsu and onto a thick tree and looked down, but he could only see Shiba, who was standing up after using his earth jutsu. When he looked up he smirked, but Naruto wasn't about to go out like that. Naruto quickly ducked down right as a kunai flew past his head, connected to Midori, who had tried to take Naruto's head off from the back. Naruto was already going through hand signs even before the man had started his slashing movement. Fire style. Great fireball jutsu, shouted Naruto point blank in the face of Midori, and was easily able to incinerate him. Naruto wasn't surprised when Midori turned into a pile of burning earth and fell to the ground. They are better than I thought they were. Using an earth clone to try and kill me, and if it failed they would be able to see where they went wrong and made plans to counter it, thought Naruto as he landed on one of the giant penis mushrooms, which gave him a sick feeling. He is better than we thought he was. Sneaking up on him seems to be very difficult. I feel like I am being watched wherever I go, spoke Shiba as he stood on a tree branch across from Naruto as they locked eyes/s and stared each other down. Yeah, and he seems to be skilled with fire release. That fireball was pretty hot. It was hot enough to actually burn the earth clone and turn it into a blackened clump of rock on the ground, spoke Midori as he looked down at the black crumbling rock on the ground. It looked like something that was cooling down after a volcano went off. We should assume he is a skilled sensor ninja with the way he is never surprised by use and always seems to know where we are. He also doesn't seem handicapped by the fact he only has one eye, spoke Shiba as he pulled a kunai with an explosive tag wrapped around it. We do have several advantages over him. He does seem to have an unnatural ability to know where we are, but he is still a kid and therefore he shouldn't have too much training. His chakra reserves shouldn't be that big either. Using that fire jutsu should have wasted a fair deal of his chakra, spoke Midori as he pulled out a tanto and channeled wind chakra through it. It had taken a lot of training to master this, but it was totally worth it in his opinion. There is also the fact that he has that small body and that there is only one of him and two of us. Close range will be disadvantageous to him, so we should try and get as close to him as possible and take him down with taijutsu, spoke Shiba as he looked over at Midori. Midori saw the look on his face and nodded his head. So the named Midori has a wind release affinity and the one named Shiba has an earth release affinity, an odd combination for sure, but they seem to make it work. I had better careful. It seems they are going to attack soon, spoke Naruto as he started to go through hand signs. Fire release. Phoenix Sage fire technique, shouted Naruto as he blew out 6 small fireballs that he manipulated towards the two men. Shiba and Midori took emergency maneuvers and tried to dodge the fireballs. Shiba hid behind a tree, which caused it to have 3 large holes after the fireballs hit it and exploded, sending chunks of bark and wood down to the forest floor below. Midori was a bit more nimble and was able to dodge the first one by jumping in the air, causing the fireball to hit a tree branch that he had been standing on and blow it off the tree. He had to use some of his chakra using a wind jutsu to avoid the second fireball that flew up and ignited the treetop on a smothering fire that quickly burned up all of the leaves. The third fireball hit his tanto that he was channeling wind chakra through, which had caused an explosion, though thankfully only his hand got a few burns. When they had recovered, they ran as fast as they could towards Naruto, who was still stuck to the side of a large tree. Midori ran straight up the tree directly at Naruto, intent on meeting him head-on in some hand-to-hand fighting, while Shiba ran along the backside of the tree, intent on attacking Naruto when his back was turned. Naruto realized what they were doing and knew he was in trouble. He quickly intercepted the first guy and exchanged blows with him. He figured if he could take him down first, then he would be able to take on the second guy without any distractions. "You are good, kid," But not good enough, shouted Midori as he tried to punch Naruto in the face with all of his strength. This was a bad idea for sure. Naruto moved his head to the right and was able to dodge the man's fist and quickly grabbed his wrist with his left hand and his elbow with his right hand. He pulled the man's wrist down and pushed the man's elbow up. Naruto had to send some chakra to his muscles to strengthen them and quickly pushed as hard as he could and broke the man's arm. Ah! Shouted Midori as he backed up a bit as pain shot through his body from his broken arm. The boy hadn't just broken it, but snapped it by twisting the bone in 2 different directions. Naruto wanted to capitalize on his advantage, but Shiba quickly entered his field of sight. Naruto had to move quickly as a hail of kunai rushed past him. Naruto landed on a nearby tree, but it seemed Shiba wasn't about to let him get away that easily and chased him while throwing exploding kunai. It took everything Naruto had learned not to get hit by one of them or the shrapnel that came off of the trees that were hit by them. Naruto thought about turning around and fighting him, but this guy seemed to have plenty of those exploding tags. You can't run forever, shouted Shiba as he chased Naruto. This brat was gonna die, that was for sure. All he needed was for him to slip up just once and it would be all over for him. Fuck you, shouted Naruto as he landed on a large tree and ran around to the back side. Shiba saw this and quickly followed. When he got to the other side, he saw that Naruto wasn't anywhere to be seen and thought that maybe he had gotten away. That was when he heard the sound of fingers rapidly weaving hand signs. When he looked up the tree, he saw Naruto standing there holding up a sign with his lungs swollen from sucking in so much air. Fire release. Flame bullet jutsu, shouted Naruto as a large fireball shot out of his mouth. But instead of being large and powerful, this one was loosely held together and spread out all over the base of the tree, giving Shiba nowhere to run. H, shouted Shiba as he was engulfed in flames and his body was turned into a charred corpse. His body soon fell from the tree, and when it hit the ground it crumbled into pieces like broken charcoal. I don't need to run forever, spoke Naruto as he started to feel the drop in his chakra reserves. He looked down at the charred body and started to feel sick. Naruto didn't want to show weakness, he had seen someone die before, but this was different. He had killed someone and he felt he was going to throw up. Right as Naruto went to throw up, Midori ran into his field of vision, shocking Naruto. With him throwing up, there was nothing he could do except try and dodge. But it was far from perfect. As Naruto threw up in mid-jump, Midori slashed a large gash across his back, causing his blood to fly into the air. When Naruto hit the ground, he was in pain and felt disgusted at the same time. He tried to stand up, but then Midori landed on him, causing the air to be knocked out of his lungs and the burning sensation in his throat from throwing up to worsen. I am going to skin you alive for what you did to me, and Shiba, shouted Midori as he pulled out a long kunai with some nicked sides that Naruto knew would greatly add to the pain of being skinned alive. Naruto was scared and started to panic by kicking his legs and flailing his arms, but the man had him in a firm grip, not letting him more at all. Without being able to get to his tools and unable to weave hand signs, Naruto knew he was screwed. There was only one thing that could save him now, so he closed his eyes and focused. Oh, trust me, closing your eye won't save you now. Maybe I should cut your eyelid out, so you can't look away, spoke Midori in a crazed tone. Right as he went to do as he said, a golden chakra chain shot out of Naruto's chest and right through Midori's heart. What is this? Asked Midori as he coughed and blood came out of his mouth. He tried to stand up, but the chakra chain started to wrap around him and then lifted him up into the air. It slowly started to squeeze him, causing the bones in his chest to break and pierce various organs in his chest. He kept on coughing up blood until the chain had squeezed him so hard that it squeezed him in half. How do you like my chakra chain, punk? Asked Naruto when he stood up and began going through the man's pockets. He was in luck when he found a how-to book on water release. It seemed that Midori was trying to learn a second element. Naruto did remember that it was a requirement in Konohagakure that if you wanted to be a jonin you had to show at least some proficiency with two elements to become a jonin. It seemed that Midori had hopes of moving up in the ranks, though there wasn't much chance of that happening now. I can't believe you were actually able to defeat them, let alone kill them, spoke the old man as he poked his head out from behind a large tree as he looked around to make sure that he was safe. Naruto looked back at him with a tired look before going back to take whatever he could from the man that had any value to him. Well, it wasn't easy, but I was able to do it, spoke Naruto, but he thought, but I wouldn't have been able to do it without my Byakugan or my chakra chains. It was a daunting thought, but he was alive and the victor, that was the only thing that mattered. Well, regardless, I owe you my life. Do you need anything? Spoke the old man as he tried to avoid looking at the charred corpse and the man who had been squeezed in half by a golden chakra chain. Now all I am doing really is traveling around just seeing the world, though with this scroll I can now start learning water release. Other than that I am just chillin', spoke Naruto as he put the scroll in his shirt and pocketed all the rest of the stuff the man had. He really only had the basic ninja equipment, but Naruto took the forehead protector for a trophy. Well, if all you want to do is travel around, you can stay with me. I still need to drop off my products in the capital, and then I am going to go north. I could use a bodyguard and I wouldn't mind paying for food and shelter, spoke the old man as he pointed towards the wagon. Naruto thought about it and he had to admit it sounded good. He didn't have anything else to do and hanging out with this old man had proven to be entertaining, so maybe acting as a bodyguard wouldn't be so bad. Yeah, that sounds good. Though do you have a bucket? I need to fill it up with water so I can start practicing what is in this scroll, spoke Naruto as he followed the old man to his cart. Naruto quickly jumped in the back and started to look around. I only have the buckets I use to feed my girls, spoke the old man as he patted the two horses on the heads as he thanked Kami that he was alive. The kid had been a real heaven send and the old man also had to think it was because he had been kind and asked the boy if he needed help instead of just ignoring him and riding on by. He figured it might have been a test by Kami. That is perfect, spoke Naruto as he took one of the buckets and ran to a small pond and filled it up with water. When he stood back up and looked behind him, he saw how much damage they had caused in their battle and felt guilty for hurting the trees. He had always been a nature freak, but he had almost forgotten about killing the two Chunin, showing how little he valued humanity. Great! We can stop over in Serrano and sell these goods. After that, we are getting out of this country. I would hate to get caught by stronger ninja and end up getting thrown in Hozukujo prison, spoke the man with a shudder of the shoulders as he walked over to the horses. Naruto was glad he had left because when he opened his eye, instead of coal black, it was red with one tome in it. It seemed that during his fight things had gotten so dicey that his new Sharingan had awakened. He quickly stopped sending chakra to it and his Byakugan to conserve chakra. Okay, it says here that you should get a pot or something like that and fill it with water. After you do this, you are to push your chakra into the water and then spin it. The faster the water, the better. But the main purpose is to make the water rise up like a twister full of water or down like a whirlpool. Okay, let's get to work, thought Naruto as he put his hand on the sides of the metal pan and pushed his chakra into it. It didn't do anything but cause some turbulence in the water. Naruto didn't know how long they were going to be in this country, but with the Byakugan he would be able to watch their backs and it would help him see what he was doing wrong, so he quickly activated it, not too worried about the small drain on his chakra reserves. Triple X. So Naruto and the old man slowly moved through the land of grass on the wagon, talking about things that they had seen and places that they had gone. Naruto admitted to not going very far, claiming to have come straight to the land of fire from a small island country when they had met. The old man wasn't bothered by his lack of stories at all and seemed to enjoy telling Naruto about all of the places that he had gone. He described some truly magnificent sights that Naruto promised himself he was going to go see. The old man never talked about his own family, and after one question he had never asked Naruto about his own family. They both seemed to get that the other had some serious issues when it came to that subject, and out of respect for one another didn't say anything about it anymore. The old man was interested in Naruto's ninjutsu though. He said that being a farmer and trader, the ninja were kind of like these mystical warriors that were highly secretive. Naruto found it funny how the old man would tell him how the ninja were both revered and feared throughout the elemental nations. Naruto didn't feel it was a problem to tell him about the ninja arts, even if it was just a small bit. He explained that ninja had to have balance in their lives or they would be severely hindered. He explained to the old man about physical and spiritual energies mixing together to create a new energy that they could use to do all kinds of amazing things. The old man admitted that he thought it was amazing that Naruto could create fire and use it like he did. He did admit to preferring the use of earth nature over the other natures simply because it had such potential for everyday use. Naruto thought about it and had to admit he agreed. The techniques of earth release did stay even after their purpose had been fulfilled simply because it was a solid instead of a gas, plasma, or liquid like the other elements. So what would you use earth release to do if you could do it, old man? Asked Naruto as he looked down at the bucket of water. He was making progress, but it was slow for sure. He was thankful that even though he didn't have someone who knew how to do this, he did have the Byakugan so he could experiment with what did and didn't work instead of just fumbling around in the dark. I guess I would build houses, till farms, create bridges, things like that, spoke the old man as he led the horses along the dirt path. He was happy that no more ninjas had popped up because that would have been terrible. Wow, you are so noble, laughed Naruto as he continued practicing his water release. So you would just go around tilling the earth for everyone you meet and build houses for the poor, spoke Naruto as he looked up at the sky. They had been on the road for a week now and they were still in this giant forest full of penis mushrooms. Well yeah, but I would still have to continue trading. I need to eat after all, spoke the old man as he began to laugh heartedly. Naruto looked at him for a moment before laughing himself. You know, the ninja who taught me how to use ninjutsu used to tell me the same thing, spoke Naruto, getting a weird look from the old man. It is true that if they wanted to, ninja could farm and do other things for money, but that would take away time from training, downtime, and missions. There are a lot of things that make ninja society go round, spoke Naruto as he cursed silently under his breath. This was much harder because he learned fire release first. It should have been water, fire, and then wind instead of fire, water, and then wind if he got that lucky. Oh, you seem to know quite a lot about the ninja villages when you come from a small island nation, spoke the old man as he scratched his beard. Naruto smirked, knowing that the old man didn't really believe that story, but just didn't want to stick his nose in something that wasn't his business. Yeah, well, you wouldn't imagine how many missing ninja go to those small villages trying to hide from their former villages, spoke Naruto as he extended his vision with his Byakugan. There wasn't any danger from what he could see, so he went back to focusing on the pail of water. I guess it makes sense. Only an idiot would run away from his village and stay in a neighboring country and think he was safe, spoke the old man as he watched some beautiful blue birds with white bellies and black markings fly overhead. He didn't see the annoyed look Naruto gave him, though Naruto just ignored it. The Hidden Leaf village thought he was dead, so staying close wasn't a terrible idea since they weren't looking for him, but it did run the risk of a ninja sporting him and then bringing him in or reporting that he was alive. True, but you would be surprised at just how sneaky some ninja can be. I heard that there was actually ninja who could turn invisible or at least transparent and fight like that. There have been some very famous ninja who made great use of that technique, spoke Naruto as he leaned back and rested. He was using way too much chakra trying to master water release as fast as he could. Sending chakra into the pail constantly was really causing him to tire out. Is that so? Spoke the old man in a humoring a young man voice. Yeah, it is, spoke Naruto in an I am telling the truth voice. The old man just laughed and Naruto just sighed.